Oh, fan 6 points. After the math teacher, Deng Yongchuan, had said this, the class began to laugh loudly. Nearly everyone turned their heads around to look at the short, black-haired youth who was sitting at the very back of the classroom. This youth was Mo Fan, the one who only got a single-digit score on the exam. Mo Fan, you should learn from Mu Bai. He was able to score 96 despite the exam being this hard. How could you only get a single-digit score on the exams? Don't sully your own name, Deng Yongchuan sighed. How could such a troublesome student be in my class? When he first entered the school, his grades were top-notch. However, after entering high school, his grades quickly fell, and with his exam scores being such a tragic sight, it caused the class average to drop as well. Teacher, he doesn't even live up to his name, Mo Fan. Mo Fan? He's not average at all. He's levels lower than average. He's practically a dreg. The student called Mu Bai called. Ha ha ha, he really is. Mu Bai truly lives up to his reputation. He can insult people without swearing. Mo Fan is indeed not average. He has already become trash. The entire class began to laugh, and it wasn't until Deng Yongchuan began his lecture that they finally stopped. This Mu Bai makes me sick. He thinks he's amazing just because he's handsome, has good grades, and knows how to play musical instruments. The person who sits next to Mo Fan, Guanggu, said. He's just a childish censored, Mo Fan said with disdain. Do you want to play volleyball when the school ends? Can't go. I've got stuff to do. You're going to help old man Ying again? After all, you're the only one who dares to go to the thatched cottage behind the mountains. Oh, right. I got me some Xuanhuan and Mohuan novels. Do you want me to lend one to you? You can put it in my bag, however. You should read less novels. You're addicted, Mo Fan said. To a student, the most beautiful bell sound is naturally the one signaling the end of class. After the end of an entire day filled with dull classes, Mo Fan yawned as he carried his bag while walking to the back of the mountain. The back of the mountain was the back entrance of the academy. Basically, no one actually used it. Old man Ying, who Guanggu mentioned, was the guard of the academy's back mountain, in order to ensure the safety of the students and prevent students from sneaking out to internet cafes. The school had appointed Old Man Ying as the keeper of the back entrance. Old Man Ying had no relatives nor friends. When he had passed away, there were no questions asked about him. Thus, the school carelessly buried him. Mo Fan and Old Man Ying were quite familiar with each other. Before the old man passed away, he had also left some stuff for Mo Fan. He only remembered the old man's good intentions today, hence he decided to take a look at the thatched cottage. Old Man Ying had always said that he was the descendant of some historical big shot, so he was in possession of a 5,000-year-old antique ring. Mo Fan had seen that ring before. It was completely pitch black and didn't look like some antique. However, the most important thing was that he had brought it to an appraiser to get appraised. The owner had thrown Mo Fan out while questioning how he could have the face to say that this copper ring, smelted from a charcoal stove, was an antique. Ever since then, Mo Fan stopped believing in Old Man Ying's bragging. Mo Fan wanted to take the things Old Man Ying had left behind as something to remember him by. Old Man Ying was a magnanimous gatekeeper. He was very indifferent toward the topics of life and death. Mo Fan wished for him to pass away in peace. Death was not the end of everything. Perhaps you can start your life over somewhere else. Would you believe me if I said that in this plane that holds science in high regards, there is another parallel plane that practices magic? In that plane, you don't study science, but magic. This was the kind of crazy talk that Old Man Ying would always tell Mo Fan, which was why Mo Fan firmly believed that when he passed away. Old Man Ying had gone to a different plane to restart his life and live a more extravagant one while he was at it. The ring was easily found within the wooden box under his bamboo bed. As Mo Fan opened it, he felt a faint, obscure aura emanating from the box. It did indeed feel quite mysterious. However, Mo Fan is 16 years old. He didn't believe that there would be something like a cultivation technique in this world. He definitely did not believe the recluse who said that if Mo Fan wore this ring and practiced this cultivation technique, he would be able to save the universe. The pitch black ring was an ordinary-looking ring. If one wanted to know the most peculiar thing about the ring, it would be that the interior had 8 very small holes which any artisan was able to make. The moment Mo Fan put it on, he felt a heart-freezing chill. This thing that made him shake in the heat of summer was quite strange. Strange my ass. As Mo Fan thought this over, he denied the idea in his head. Mo Fan was struck with a sudden sleepiness, but he still had to work that night. Thus he arranged the bamboo mat and laid down inside the house to sleep first. At 10 p.m., he would have to go to the 24/7 supermarket to be a clerk, and he would work till 6 in the morning. He was extremely sleepy, thus he fell asleep very quickly. A sliver of blood-red light shone through the mountain cracks from the setting sun, dyeing the forest behind the mountains and the small thatched cottage red with its glow. It was like a colossal door in the dark that was slowly closing. The radiating light in the darkness was slowly being sucked inside the door. As the sunset completely disappeared beneath the mountains, and as dusk came to rule the world, the back of the mountain seemed as though it was covered with a misty layer of a bizarre color. From far away, this area seemed like it continued into nothingness. Beneath the blood sun was an indistinct scene around the water, like a mirage. The youth sleeping inside the thatched cottage was still snoring. Little did he know that the ring on his finger was emitting an ear-piercing humming sound. It was as if it was reacting to the reflection of the mirage that revealed the world's true calling. Bum as it trembled, so did the entire space. Shuinan Middle School was located in Nanshan in the city. Nanshan was much taller than the rest of Xia City. The city was already brightly lit up. The streets, shops, buildings, the grand city of Xia was radiating a magnificent brilliance. Old people who were taking walks after dinner, older ladies who were dancing in the public squares, the children who chased each other in the small valleys, and lovers who were having dates in the park. The evening didn't leave people with any insecurity or fear. On the contrary, they were actually enjoying getting off classes for the day, getting off work, and relaxing after dinner. However, if one were to look closely toward the location of Shuinan Middle School, the south side of the mountain, they would have discovered that the campus that should have been shining bright had been shrouded in a muddled layer. This space was originally peaceful like the water's surface, but at this moment, a spatial tunnel appeared, spiraling like it was being devoured, causing it to be increasingly fierce, although silent. On one side was a peaceful city with glorious lights. On the other was half a mountain swallowed by the black spiral. The northern city that had just entered its summer eve became an incomparably astonishing scene. The entire space-time had changed, and the cause of it was this tunnel that was unexplainable in scientific terms. The center of the spatial tunnel was the thatched cottage behind the mountains. The colossal whirlpool suddenly diffused, followed by it vanishing into nothingness. It was as if nothing had happened at all. A certain person who was still sleeping soundly had no idea about the colossal changes to the world, that he had fallen into a parallel world. The empty mountain experienced a sudden rain, which gave the scorching summer day a fierce cold punch, suppressing the overwhelming heat. The air in the morning was particularly good, and the warm meat buns by the school gates released an alluring smell. The dazzling golden youtiao gave a mouth-watering scent. "Seventh uncle, I'd like some soy milk and youtiao." A youth with a messy appearance sat down on the stool as he said this to the old man who sold youtiao. "Coming." The old youtiao man swiftly served the soy milk, purposely filling up the cup as a smile radiated across his face. "Mo Fan, you are about to take the magic exams. You should put some effort and strive to get into the University of Magicians so you can bring our clan some face." Mo Fan blankly stared at the seventh uncle who was selling breakfast by the school gates. He carefully thought to himself and reckoned that he probably misheard, thus he nodded as he ate. Yesterday he slept so much that his head felt dizzy. He felt as though he had dreamt about a journey that took several centuries. When he woke up, he felt like a lifetime had passed. He didn't know where east, south, west, and north were, nor whether it was morning or noon. Mo Fan wolfed down his food, his hand holding half of the youtiao. As he was about to bite into the youtiao, he suddenly felt something heavy at his side. A half-bald man in his 30s sat down next to him, his body reeking of cigarettes. "Mo Fan, eating breakfast, eh?" The bald man smiled as he greeted Mo Fan. "Good morning, Superintendent Hu." Mo Fan hastily smiled as he greeted him back. This man was the prominent Superintendent Hu. He wore a suit that didn't suit him every day, and his forehead shone brightly. "I'm not wearing my watch. What time is it?" Superintendent Hu asked, exposing his yellow teeth. Mo Fan took out his broken Nokia to look, still another 15 minutes before the bell rings. Crap, I'm late. I still haven't finished my magic theory PPT. I don't have time to finish my breakfast. As Superintendent Hu stood up all of a sudden, Mo Fan suddenly tilted over. Boss, I don't need the soy milk. Walking to the office is far too slow, whatever. It doesn't matter if I use some magic. Superintendent Hu stood there talking to himself. Mo Fan was very puzzled. He felt like Superintendent Hu was speaking in an alien language. Just as he thought he heard wrong, the soy milk shop's canopy turned over in an incomparably strange way. It was as though compressed air had bubbled forth from within the soy milk shop. As the evil wind came by, it messed up Mo Fan's hair and rustled his clothes. Wind trail, fast dry. As Superintendent Hu suddenly muttered to himself, his misfitted suit began to move on his body in an indescribable way. It was as if there was a gale inside his clothes. His tie fluttered, and his trousers began oscillating. How could there be wind on a calm morning such as this, and it ruthlessly blow towards Superintendent Hu? SSH, an azure light flashed. Mo Fan could see an indistinct thread of a beautiful starlight moving to surround Superintendent Hu's whole body. The starlight flashed as it moved. Student Mo Fan, teacher will leave first. Do your best in studying. Superintendent Hu turned around and exposed his yellow-toothed smile to Mo Fan. Mo Fan seemed a bit taken back. Before he could come back to his senses, he heard a swoosh sound. The slightly plump, bald Superintendent Hu, with the suit that seemed out of place, followed the dust trajectory from the swirling wind and hastily made his way toward the school. His stride was exceptionally quick. The students wearing their student uniforms seemed immobile, which let Superintendent Hu travel in high speed through them, leaving behind a shocking dust trail. During this short period of time, Mo Fan felt like the superintendent's face was still in front of him. However, at this moment, Superintendent Hu had already disappeared into the depths of the school, and he was no longer able to see his shadow. The words, "Do your best in studying," still resonated in his ears. However, the person was already gone without a trace. He was chewing on half the Yutiao. As the chewing came to a stop, the other Yutiao slid from Mo Fan's hands. Superintendent Hu, are you the successor of Duan Yu, using his ultimate technique of ripple tiny steps? This is just an illusion. This is definitely just an illusion. Mo Fan rubbed his eyes after a long while. It must be because I didn't sleep well last night. It must have pressured my cranial nerves or something. How else am I imagining this kind of scene? Let's finish this breakfast quickly and go back to the classroom to get some more sleep. Heavens, what is this? A bald and prominent superintendent who can use ripple tiny step? After arriving at the classroom, he lay down onto the desk immediately without saying anything, so he could mitigate the illusion he had seen before. From the front of his desk came the two small voices of the student representatives. One said, "There's only 1 month left. What do I do if I don't get into a good high school?" "You're really smart, though. I'm sure you can enter the Tianlan Magic High School." "What? You're the smart one? Your grades for theory classes are so high, I could practically pull out any magical beast and you would recognize them and their weaknesses." Mo Fan creased his eyebrows. This wasn't his first time hearing this whole concept of magic. What happened? Is it possible that I'm having another illusion? I don't take drugs, nor do I smoke. Forget it. It must be because I haven't had a proper sleep. Mo Fan ignored the crazy talk of the two lads in front of him and quickly entered a deep state of sleep. Mo Fan's many years of experience in studying gave him a superior ability to fall asleep on his desk in just a single second. Students, open your textbooks. Today, we will continue to learn about Magic Release's preliminary requirements. Do you still remember what I told you before? To complete primary rank magic, you have to first make the stars in your magic stardust link to each other. By doing this, you will be able to form a star path and then utilize the power of magic. I have already explained this theory to you many times before, while at the same time, this is also the most important part of the exam. The math teacher, Su Qingxi, said as he maintained his intonation. In the past, Mo Fan could enter a state of deep sleep as he followed the voice of the teacher. However, as he once again heard magic release and star, he was immediately woken up. Mo Fan, you better listen in class. There's less than a month's time, yet you're still neglecting yourself. Su Qingxi saw Mo Fan and immediately reprimanded him. The classmates also turned their heads around and quietly laughed to themselves. Laughing at the trash had already become their favorite thing to do in class. "Open your textbook," Su Qingji said in continuation. Mo Fan felt helpless as he opened up his textbook. "Sheet, what is this?" Mo Fan couldn't help himself from swearing. The pictures, functions, and formulas that were contained in the math book were all gone. Instead, there was a star path, which he didn't understand at all. The picture of the star had something that looked like a connecting line with streaking meteors. It looked like, just like a censored magic formation. Mo Fan forcefully suppressed the astonishment in his heart, and then came to another realization. When the math teacher stopped observing him, Mo Fan kicked his seatmate, Guangu, below the table and said, "Are you messing with me? What the heck did you switch out my book for? Hurry up and give me back my math book." "Big brother, what math book are you talking about?" The tanned-faced Guangu felt wronged. He didn't try to provoke anyone. "Come take a look at this crap." "Hurry up and give me my book back." Mo Fan opened up his book and pointed at the strange star path, magic symbols, and the odd incantations. "Big brother Mo Fan, this is the magic book for this class." "What's math? Did you stay up all night again reading science novels? You're even saying I'm reading so much that it's like I am possessed. You're the same as me," Guangu said. As Mo Fan heard Guangu's retort, his chin almost couldn't help but drop down to the floor. "What is this, and what now?" "Stop bullshitting me," Mo Fan said in anger. "This brat sure is good at acting. The real question is whether I'm gonna believe you like a madman." "Boss, the novels have actually caused you to go mad. We are in the magic world, all right. How could we possibly have something as incredible and mysterious as math? If there really was, then I wouldn't be spending every day studying something as boring as magic theory, elemental systems, or magical beasts. I would have studied mathematics, literature, and all these interesting things a long time ago," Guangu said with a sincere expression and a heartfelt tone to Mo Fan. As Mo Fa looked at Guangu's expression, he thought to himself, this bastard actually did not even reveal a little bit of a mistake as he said this crazy stuff. It really seemed like it was real. My seatmate has gone mad. Not only has he gone mad, but he's even trying to turn me into a madman. Learning something as boring as magic theory, elemental systems, and magical beasts. It's impressive you can even say that out loud. If you don't believe me, then just listen to what the teacher is saying, Guangu said indifferently as he saw Mo Fan's peculiar expression. As Mo Fan heard this, he finally carefully listened to what the math teacher, Su Qingji, was saying. However, one part was like an alien language. There were terms which Mo Fan had no idea about, which caused him to feel unwell. Su Qingji didn't mention the familiar functions nor formulas at all. On the contrary, he had said the words star path and star diagram numerous times. He even mentioned things like fire, ice, water elements. Crazy. They've all gone crazy. Mo Fan's belief was solemn. He would not believe these words. The next class was with his favorite literature teacher, Mimi Ses Chin. Beautiful, sexy, mature, gentle, big and perky boobs. Her very round buttocks won't use this kind of nonsense to deceive me. After going through the incomprehensible math class, Mrs. Chin, with her slender body and formal black dress, walked into the classroom. Just like before, she gave a slight smile that illuminated the entire classroom. The boys of the class became like kindergartners. Excitement filled their faces as they greeted the teacher. Students, today we will be discussing the pros and cons of black magic. Everyone should already know that black magic is divided into 3 different types: specter type, curse type, and shadow type. Then, what's the difference in these 3 types of magic? Mrs. Chin said with a gentle and elegant voice. In the past, Mo Fan would have been able to attentively look and listen. However, after hearing these words, his expression made it seem as though he had eaten a housefly, while the crazy seatmate to the side of him made a "see, what did I tell you" kind of expression. You're not wrong. Then your father, I must be sick. Impossible. Mo Fan finally couldn't take it anymore and quickly slid off his chair and stood up. Mrs. Chin, aren't we supposed to have literature class? Mo Fan asked. As his seatmate Guangu realized what Mo Fan was going to stand up and ask, he tried to pull him away but failed to do so. After hearing what Mo Fan had asked, He facepalmed himself while saying, "Oh my God." As the words were said, a roar of laughter arose within the quiet classroom. The whole class, consisting of 40 students, were swaying with laughter, especially Mubai. He laughed so much that he began to tear up. Mrs. Chin did not laugh. She pushed her glasses with gold traces to the side while maintaining a slight smile. Her clear cat-like eyes looked at Mo Fan as she earnestly said, "Mo Fan, this literature you're talking about is science, right? Science doesn't exist here. You must have immersed yourself in those non-existent things instead of earnestly studying magic. You have to become an useful mage for society, all right?" One could imagine the literature teacher was very sincere. When such earnest words were being spoken out loud, one could imagine the expression of a certain youth changing greatly. "God, please kill me already." Hey, hold on. How come the words Mrs. Chin just said was exactly the same as what the already passed old man Ying had said? Is it possible that there really is a magic plane, and I have actually been dropped right into the magic plane? Mo Fan had originally thought that this was all just a dream. However, the following few days were exactly the same. While at the same time, his clear conscience had also been telling him that this was definitely not a dream. On the morning of the 4th day, he was once again sitting at Uncle Seven's place eating youtiao while feeling conflicted. The 2 male students next to him were discussing magical tools. Mo Fan was unclear on what kind of things these magical tools were. However, listening to the way they spoke about it, it seemed to be something incredible. Not only that, it also sounded expensive, roughly about the same price as a car. "Mo Fan, why do you seem so down? How about I, your uncle, buy you something to energize you? The exams are coming up. Whether you are able to become a mage depends on this exam," the youtiao vendor, Uncle Seven, said with concern. Mo Fan automatically assumed what Uncle Seven had said was related to his grades in school. Ooh, a bizarre wind blew onto the small vendor. It swirled some dust onto Mo Fan's soy milk, thus he quickly poured it down his throat. His entire being looked dispirited. The wind got stronger and stronger, and Mo Fan felt a strange pressure slowly spiraling down on him. The grass was swaying wildly, and the dirt particles were flying everywhere. The girls covered and held their skirts down as they let out astonished cries. Mo Fan had gotten used to it. It was that teacher again, using the wind trail magic to stride, and there was more activity among the people this time. What in the heavens, what is tat? Oh crap, that's so cool. Wings, that person actually has wings behind him. It's exactly the same as the video in Super Kugan. Wind wings, dear lords, I have actually seen the high-level wind element magic wind wings with my own eyes. Mo Fan was unable to eat his breakfast peacefully with the surroundings being this noisy. Mo Fan assumed a calm face as he raised his head. However, in the next moment, it was as if his entire being sustained a lightning shock as he stood there. His drowsy eyes widened all of a sudden, unable to move away from what he was seeing, against a bright blue sky, at the corner of a rooftop, by the swaying trees and the fluttering flag of the school. This man, who was wearing a silver gown, looked like a spirit from a dream. He flew past these exceedingly remote locations and streaked across the sky in a breathtaking arc. Mo Fan sat in the back row in the classroom, so when he was bored he tended to stare at the cloud, the sky, the trees, the flagpole, and the birds who are flying free in the sky. However, he never thought that there would actually be people who would have illusory wings to swoop past him for an unimaginable visual impact. This should be something that only exists in movies, but now it has actually appeared in front of his own eyes. Wind, in wings. Mo Fan stared at the silver man with wings in the sky as he mouthed the magic name out loud. Unlike the time he witnessed the wind trail, Mo Fan could feel something moving fiercely within his heart. This was him breaking out of the shell of his original mindset, giving birth to a thirst. That's right, in the past few days, he was unable to accept the changes to everything. Only now did he suddenly realize the great changes, and contrary to one's expectations, it made his heart race violently. It was as though he fell in love with someone at first sight. After the shock from the silver man flying by had passed, Mo Fan had already stated to himself within his heart, "Even if this is a dream, I'll still learn wind wings and hover across the horizon freely before I wake up." The time that Mo Fan had at hand was very short. If he were to look at things from the perspective of his former world, 9 years' worth of mandatory graduation testing was happening in 20 days. Read latest chapters at Nova Bin, CO only. In the remaining 20 days, all Mo Fan did was confirm some crucial points. The courses were divided into Magic Foundation Theory. Based on the setup of the subject, it seems to be literature. Magic Star Path should be geometry. Magical Beast Knowledge should be biology. Magical Tools and Devices Knowledge should be physics. Materials Knowledge should be chemistry. Magic History and Magic Geography should be self-explanatory. Naturally, Mo Fan also understood one very important piece of information. Basically, there were no students who could release magic yet. This was because what the students had studied during the 9 years compulsory education were general theories, concepts, and abilities. This was actually the same as junior high school graduates in the former world, no survival skills whatsoever. To Mo Fan, this is definitely good news. After all, this world of magic was completely alien to him. He practically had to relearn everything. The most crucial point to become a mage as a magic student was the Magic Awakening. The Magic Awakening was similar to an opening ceremony. During the opening ceremony of Magic High School, every magic students were to receive their one-time magic baptism, which was the Magic Awakening. Different people awakened different elements. Mo Fan had heard from Guangu that the awakened elements were mostly chemical elements. These were the ones you usually learn in class: wind element, fire element, water element, light element, lightning element, ice element, and earth element. The ones Mo Fan had witnessed before, wind, trail, and wind wings, were divided into low-rank magic and high-rank magic. If the people who awakened the wind element were to strive hard, then it was possible that they could learn this magic. Thus, if one wanted to become like the mage who could fly, then the first thing one needed to do was to get admitted into high school and receive what every high school magic students got, the Magic Awakening. Mo Fan, don't tell me you actually want to take the exams for Magic High School and become a mage? Guangu asked sincerely. In Guangu's opinion, Mo Fan never struck him as a person who loved studying, but suddenly he seemed to be genuinely studying magic. This was an atrocious matter. Mo Fan was too lazy to explain to his classmate. However, he had already decided that he would definitely be admitted into the Magic High School and obtain the extremely precious opportunity to awaken. Even if you were to study now, it'd be useless. You should just stop wasting the time. After all, you've missed several years of homework, Guangu said in persuasion. Guangu was very clear on the fact that Mo Fan only got 6 points on the last magic mock exam, the lowest of the entire year group. How could he get admitted with this kind of grade? You've already messed up. There's no use to put in effort now. Just accept it. Guangu, you should be the one to study more. Having Guangu chattering in his ears made Mo Fan feel somewhat irritated. Why? Guangu asked. Guangu, did you know that you look ugly? I did, Guangu admitted with a sincere face. Yeah. Then there's a saying that you should know. If one is ugly, then one should have more. Hiccups. If one is ugly, then one should learn magic. Mo Fan said these heartfelt words with sincerity. Censored, off mate. Guangu wasn't wrong, however. There was only 20-something days left. Even if one was a genius, they still wouldn't be able to compensate for all the classes from years past. Additionally, the content of the exams and what was learned were two different concepts. Mo Fan knew that he didn't have much hope left, but the reason for him cramming was not because of exams. It was because he was genuinely moved by magic, causing him to feel an intense desire to study. The time passed quickly. 20 or so days flew past in a flash. Mo Fan did not wake up from his so-called magic dream. Instead, he began to believe in the real existence of this world. Furthermore, he welcomed the junior high exam, which had turned into the Magic Junior High exam. On the day of the exams, the people outside of the school were filled with worry. It didn't matter whether they were having exams on magic or science. The parents of children were still coming to pick them up. Those who drove cars came in cars, and those who drove pedicab came in pedicabs. This was because the parents were very clear on the fact that the exams this time were going to decide whether their children would come in cars to pick up the next generation or in pedicabs. As Mo Fan walked out of the exam room, he saw the endless streams of people, and in his heart he thought, why are there cars and electric scooters in a magic world? He walked out as he was puzzled over this. But his thoughts quickly returned back to the contents of the exams. After 20 or so days of studying hard, Mo Fan have finally reached the level where he can understand the subjects of the exams. However, whether the answer was correct or not, sigh, as long as I am happy. Mo Fan, Mo Fan. Among the crowd, a yellow-faced middle-aged man looked toward Mo Fan with his left hand raised above his head. As Mo Fan saw this familiar face, he accidentally called out, "Father, why did you come here?" "To pick you up, of course. After you finished your exams, you have basically graduated. I found you a job in the next city district as a construction worker. You'll be under Uncle Guang Feng. Once you've worked there for a few years and gained experience, then you can start doing it on your own. If you're lucky, then there shouldn't be a problem for you to earn up to 4,000 to 5,000 RMB. It's also better if you start working early," Mo Jackson said as he smiled wholeheartedly. The world has changed, but Mo Fan remained bad at studying. Whereas Dad was still Dad, Mo Fan felt like he had retained an unchanged family. If Mo Jackson had mentioned the matter of becoming a construction worker to Mo Fan about a month ago, Mo Fan would choose the road his father had arranged for him without hesitation. This was because he had to walk this road to enter the society. However, the Mo Fan of now was different. In this society, there are cars, mobiles, computers, and even refrigerators. However, scientific merchandise didn't exist because it was replaced by magic. If you don't become a mage, then you will become a worker that handles and produces those kinds of things. Damn, that's no different than the former world, thus, I will definitely study magic. Dad, I want to continue studying. Mo Fan remained silent for a long period of time before he told Mo Jackson about the thought in his mind. I thought you didn't like studying magic, Mo Jackson said, with a raised eyebrow and his face filled with surprise. Mo Fan felt caught between a rock and a hard place. How was he supposed to explain this thing? He was so screwed. Mo Jackson looked at his almost 16-year-old son as his face once again contained a straight and honest smile, while he said, "Don't worry. Your father won't blame you for not putting effort into studying magic. Every individual has their own ambitions. No, I genuinely want to study. Are you able to pass the exams?" Mo Jackson asked. "No," Mo Fan said in uncertainty. Whether it is having exams in English language or magic, Mo Fan would definitely not pass. There was no doubting this point. "Then that's that. Don't worry. Although the ancient people have said magic is above everything, there's also a saying for those who are a jack of all trades." As Mo Fan finished listening to this, he unconsciously smacked his lips. At the moment, there was a lot of information that Mo Fan had to process. However, during the period of time he was processing this information, Mo Fan was particularly silent. For example, Mo Fan remembered there was one time where the history teacher had told the students, the light element magic's earliest user was Edison, and at that time, it had caused Mo Fan to curse over and over again in his mind. When Mo Jackson patted Mo Fan's shoulders to console him, he suddenly realized that his son maintained his silence. His son's expression showed he was not in a normal state. No one understood their son like their father. Mo Jackson slowly retracted his smile. His voice turned lower-pitched as he asked, "Are you for real?" "Yeah, I want to obtain the opportunity to awaken. I do understand that it's already too late, but I genuinely want to study and become a mage," Mo Fan sincerely said. Mo Jackson remained silent. Mo Fan also didn't say anything. "You really want to continue studying?" Mo Jackson confirmed once more. "I do." Mo Fan nodded his head without hesitation. Originally, Mo Fan also thought it was on impulse. However, it has been a month, and the restless sensation the wild wings had brought into his heart had yet to cool down. He really was not kidding. He seriously wanted to study. "In that case, all right, I'll think of something." Mo Jackson said no more. "Dad, I found a temporary job at the Tianlan Magic High School looking after the library." "It starts the day after tomorrow," Mo Fan said. Since he has decided to study magic, Mo Fan had no intentions of giving up due to himself being unable to properly study. Whether he could enter the magic high school and obtain the opportunity to awaken would have to depend on his father, while he would depend on himself to fill in the knowledge that he was lacking. He was very clear on the fact that he had no hope to be admitted into magic high school, thus Mo Fan found this job in advance. There was practically no salary, just food and residence. However, to Mo Fan, this was very important as he could find many things he lacked in the library. Mo Jackson was astonished. He didn't know what had caused his son's great change of mind. However, since Mo Fan has wholeheartedly begged for magic, then he had no reason to be unhappy. After all, in this society, the ones who truly held a status were the mages. A construction worker could get a house and a car, but their value and respect still couldn't be compared to a mage who graduated from a magic school. Let's go home first. We'll talk at home. Mo Jackson nodded his head, no longer saying anything else. Mo Jackson did not worry about his son at all. Mo Fan wasn't 16 yet, but in Mo Jackson's heart, Mo Fan had already entered adulthood. On one half of the mountain lay a residential area. If one were to follow the road with the iron fences and walk to the end of that small road, one would find Mo Fan's home. It was a small 1.5-story house. The exterior wall had cracked paint, which revealed the red bricks underneath. There was junk in the houses surrounding it. Read latest chapters at Noville Bin, C. only. The other houses in the neighborhood were all about 3.5-story tall. After going through renovations and after being decorated, the houses looked more like actual homes. Whereas Mo Fan's house, furthest away in the corner, seemed even more like a wretched and old-fashioned house. Brother Mo Fan, you're back. I brought you some good news. As Mo Fan arrived at the entrance to his home, a monkey-like youth sprung out, his face filled with joy. This monkey was Zhang Ho, one of the children of the families that lived near this block. One could say that he grew up with Mo Fan. What's the good news? Mo Fan asked. Little Princess is back. I saw her when I was by the entrance to the mansion. Wow, you have no idea how much prettier Little Princess has gotten. She's just like a little angel, Zhang Ho said with some excitement. Mo Fan glanced at the mansion across the street. The mansion was exquisite to the point where it caused everyone to feel envious. Every inch of the flowers, plants, and trees had been through careful enhancement, causing it to reach the level of a real garden park. However, the beautiful mansion's garden was currently being surrounded by tall iron fences. When he reminisced back to his childhood, the iron fences were not there. He had regularly brought along the kids from this street to the mansion's garden to play. At the highest location of the residency, there existed many extremely exquisite European-style villas. In the eyes of these children, they looked like a castle from a fairy tale, and within the castle was indeed a princess so beautiful that made them forget to breathe. She was at a similar age to them, and Mo Fan would frequently sneak the princess out to play with them. He couldn't remember when the iron fences appeared around the residency, and the adults in the neighborhood no longer allowed their children to go into the mansion. In addition, the make-believe princess had turned into a real princess in the castle. Following the passage of age, they became more and more distant, and the number of times they met became less and less. Did you know? I heard that Little Princess is currently the ace of the renowned Imperial Magic School. Her innate talent toward ice elements is simply incomparable with her peers. She is able to utilize ice magic at the tender age of 15. Zhang Hu said in mystery. Mo Fan was astonished. If Zhang Hu were to tell him that the Little Princess received a medal in the Olympics, then he probably wouldn't feel anything. However, if it was about becoming an ice element mage, then that was something completely different. Most people had to wait until they turned 16, in their first year of high school, to receive awakening before obtaining their first elemental magic. After obtaining that, it didn't mean you had become a real mage yet. You had to go through a long process of training, obtaining a magic book, and diligently practicing before being able to release magic. Little Princess sure was impressive. She became a real magician at the age of 15. Could it be that she is the so-called child prodigy? The child prodigy of the magic world. Brother Mo Fan, I feel sorry for you. If only you put in more effort to take away the naive and innocent little princess back when we were younger. Now she's talented and good-looking. Tisk, tisk, tisk. It sure makes us quite envious, Zhang Ho said as he raised his eyebrow. That was when we were young. Stop talking about useless things, Mo Fan said cluelessly. As Mo Jackson heard the two youths talk about this, he coughed and dragged Mo Fan back home. As he just returned back home, Mo Jackson said, I'm going out for a bit. Xin Xia is living with your aunt. She's probably not coming home. All right, I understand. After Mo Jackson left in a haste, Mo Fan walked around his house and realized his home hadn't changed at all. Although the world had changed, the bitterness of being poor hadn't changed. How come my family didn't trade with the family with the mansion? Really, God? You went through all that trouble to turn science into magic, but you couldn't do something as small as changing this. The only thing he rejoiced over was the fact that his own appearance did not change. It was still as outstanding and elegant as before. Sitting at home was boring. There was nothing to do. Mo Fan was so bored that he decided to go out and take a stroll. He also wanted to see what else had changed. As he followed the mossy road that no one walked on, he saw his father's pickup truck as he was about to meet the main street. His old man was a chauffeur. He used to drive the master of that mansion. However, he didn't know how his father ended up being transferred into the logistics section. There was a day where he went to purchase things on the behalf of the mansion, and ever since then, the family's condition had gradually gotten worse. Jackson, this request of yours is a bit rude, isn't it? You should know that I treated your family quite well in the past. Despite the kid from your family committing such a deed, I still left some work for you to do. If it was someone else's family, I'd just have had them pack up and leave immediately. A middle-aged man's tone slowly sounded. Brother Muhey, just look at this as the last time I request help from you. If I were to try and buy our way into Tianlan Magic High, then that'd be too expensive. You should already know of the situation of my family. We really can't afford it, Mo Jackson said, slowly and humbly. Why are you doing this for your failure of a son? He himself doesn't have the qualifications to pass the exams to enter the Magic High, so you might as well let fate run its course. He's almost 16. Besides, even if I were to help you get your son into Magic High, just based on his character, he will definitely slack and not become a genuine magician. Becoming a magician is not that easy. Not only do you require talent and hard work, but those magic books, magical devices, and magical tools are not something your family can afford. Without these things to support him, he can't even become a primary-level magician, the man called Mu, he said with sincere tone, but Mo Fan could hear a sliver of arrogance in it. This time, he genuinely wants to study. Brother Muhey, if you help me out this time, then I will move far away from Master Mu per his demand. This way, we would also make Master Mu feel at ease, and I will also guarantee that my little brat will certainly not interact with Lady Mujutsu. Mo Jackson's voice sounded. Oh, in that case, I'd have to consider it. As soon as he heard they were willing to move away, this man called Mu, he seemed to have more interest in the discussion. A youth leaned onto a wall as he listened to the conversation. His heart felt incredibly complicated. He thought that when the world changed, the many terrible connections he had would also have changed. However, it seemed like nothing had changed. Like a ruler, the rich people of the Mu mansion were at the very top, whereas the very bottom was this father who had to go through hard work and needed help from other people. This Muhi was the chairman of Tianlan Magic High, and the truth was that he only needed to say a single word and it'd allow Mo Fan to enter Tianlan Magic High. However, after hearing his own father, Mo Jackson, being willing to move away, he quickly agreed with a heavy sigh. At the end of the conversation, his father was incessantly thanking Muhey. While he got into his luxurious car and left, he left behind the seemingly old pickup truck with dust, and his seemingly as dusty and old father, Mo Jackson. How is this a dream? This cruelty was exactly the same as his previous reality. The Mo Fan, who was leaning onto the wall with a serious look. He was very aware of the fact that his own family's condition had not changed at all. Their low status had also not changed at all. In olden times, the older family in the society had power and status. There was no difference at all in the modern world. Some families have more heritage, longer history, and their family still occupies positions and identities with power. Even if the common people were no longer called servants to the rich, they were now called workers, and although they no longer needed to kneel and salute, the fates of these common people was still below those of the rich. And their fates could be manipulated easily at the fingertips of these rich people. Mo Fan himself was born into a family at the very bottom, and they were being completely domesticated by a wealthy family called Mu. Within his heart, it felt like there was something violently surging. He grasped his fist tighter and repeatedly smashed it against the azure-colored wall. Your Mu family took advantage of me when I was young and when I was lying down. When I am powerful, I will definitely return the favor tenfold, no 100-fold. After Mo Fan returned home, all he could think of were the words Mu he had said. Those words appeared to be earnest and sincere, however. The disdain he had for the Mo family and toward himself was very evident. Can't even become a primary level magician? Your father, I will make you eat those words. Mo Fan admitted there was a period of time where he and the little princess Mu Ningshu were very close with each other. However, the young him did not know what kind of disaster this would bring to his poverty-struck family. From that day on, Mo Fan finally realized that a social class difference existed. Mo Fan, ha 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 ha, I have solved your problem. I gave a call to an old friend of mine, and it turns out he's doing really well now. He is the chairman of Tianlan Magic High. He said, if you can diligently cultivate magic, then he could allow you to enter Tianlan Magic High and let you awaken your elemental magic. This kind of opportunity only comes once in a lifetime, so you really need to do your best this time, all right? The yellow-faced Mo Jackson entered the home with a smile as he patted Mo Fan on his shoulders. Mo Fan looked at his father's joyous smile. If he was his normal self, he would also be happy and celebrate this by drinking a cup of white wine with his father. However, how could he still believe in his father's honest and bright laugh after knowing the truth? What made Mo Fan have even less faith in his respectable father was that no one else respected him in their society. Really? That's really good. That's definitely my dad. He fixes whatever issues come our way. Ha ha. At last, Mo Fan finally wore a smiling face as he reached his arms around his father's shoulders. All new stories at N0VELB.com. Of course, who do you think your father is? Mo Jackson thought this kid's bullshit was really well done, so the smile on his face grew increasingly wider. The father and son still had a few cups left. While they were drinking, Mo Jackson tactfully said, Mo Fan, you should live in the dorms. I'm planning on renting out the house so we can get a bit more money for ourselves. Mo Fan already knew that this house had basically been sold to Mu-hee. This lousy house holds no value in itself, however. The land is inside the city area, so its price was very high. All right, I'll do that. I don't come back very often anyway. It's just, what about Xin Xia? Mo Fan said as he pretended to not know the truth. Xin Xia is staying with your aunt. To be honest, it's not easy for two men like us to take care of Xin Xia. That girl is very sensible, so there's no need for us to worry about her, Mo Jackson said. In that case, I understand. Make sure you come and visit me often in school, Mo Fan said. I will. All right, I'm tired. I'll head off to sleep first. You should go to school tomorrow. Mo Jackson finished the last cup of white wine and stood up swaying. Mo Fan saw him turn around. Seeing his back made him suddenly remember the article written by Zhu Ziqing. I will live in school, and Xin Xia will stay with our aunt. We have found a place, but where is this man going to live? Ultimately, Mo Fan didn't bring up the issue. In fact, Mo Jackson was willing to make these sacrifices because he believed it was the duty and honor of a father. He wanted to let his son know that he should study in peace, and that he would help him solve any issues that he couldn't solve by himself. Besides, Mo Fan also understood that if he were to bring the issue up, it would only make Mo Jackson feel sorrow and shame. After all, what man doesn't want to be an awesome father who can fix everything for his son? Mo Fan couldn't bring it up. Other people might disrespect his father, but he wouldn't. This broken house. So what if we don't live here? At most in 3 years, after I have achieved a great level in magic studies, I will have anything I want. In this society, magic is respect. I will become an indomitable master magician. The 2 months of summer break went past really quickly. Mo Fan felt as though he had been dropped into a sea of books. There were all sorts of books in Tianlan Magic High. Furthermore, the books concerning magic were just like science books, complicated, numerous, and offering a genuine significance to what knowledge they could offer. However, Mo Fan had reaped a great harvest. At the very least, he was no longer an illiterate. Oh, magic illiterate. Mo Fan had basically grasped all the knowledge from the 9 years of compulsory magic education. His hidden potential was unleashed as he was pushed to the very depth of his desperation. The school started on the 1st of September. The opening day held great importance for all the magic students. This was due to taking part in the most important step. For all students entering the world of magicians, they would determine what kind of elemental magician each would become. Awakening, just as the name sounds, involved awakening the hidden powers within your body. Little brat, I wish you luck. Best you awaken the fire element. That will allow you to hold an advantage over other magic students. Although the other elements are quite all right, among the primary level magicians, the fire element is the best when it comes to battle prowess. Oh, rock element isn't bad either, nor is wind element, the chief supervisor of the library, Old Man Goose said. Mo Fan replied in agreement without understanding him. When this old man started talking, he just didn't stop. The truth was, Mo Fan was unable to sleep last night. To him, the awakening today wasn't just a change of fate for him, but also an unprecedented attempt. In his original world, things like magic simply did not exist. However, today, he was finally able to wholeheartedly grasp this experience. His little heart was leaping and frisking about. Mo Fan was placed in Class 8, with his student number being 48. There was nothing he could have done about it. He practically entered the school from the back door. The higher up the student number, the higher the score they received during the magic middle school exams. It was said that when a person of higher number awakened and received an element, their speed in cultivating the magic was much faster compared to a regular person. This was because their understanding toward magic was much better, thus cultivating it was also much easier for them. As luck would have it, the number 1 in Class 8 just happened to be Mo Fan's old classmate, Mubai. Mubai was actually from the Mu family. It seemed that he was not from the main family, though. The reason as to why Mubai always looked down on Mo Fan was, naturally, because of his status within the Mu mansion. He was considered as a little young master, whereas Mo Fan was the son of a servant, thus also a servant. Unfortunately for this lad, he's just a child of the branch. He was nowhere near a princess like Mu Ningxiu. Mubai had used every tactic to court Mu Ningxiu. However, she only ignored him. Mubai's grades in magic were really good. Within the Mu family, he was one of those who received extra attention. It was said that if he awakened the element of the Mu family, the ice element, his future cultivation speed would increase several times. After all, the Mu family had many resources they could offer. The other families simply couldn't compare with what the Mu family could provide to a child from a branch of the family. Class, congratulations on admittance. Presumably many of you have been waiting for the emotional time today. But before that, there are many things I need to say to everyone. On the Great Magic Grounds, all of the 1,500 new students were divided into 20 classes, forming into squads, as they stood neatly next to each other. They looked magnificent. Students, do you know what it means to become a mage? No matter what kind of mage you turn out to be, do not forget that we magicians exist to further allow humanity to grow. We protect the most important mission of humanity. Do not forget that outside of this safe city, there are countless magical beasts watching us like a tiger watches his prey. As the headmaster's speech came to an end, he finally came to the part everyone was looking forward to most. All right, you will begin the awakening ceremony today. I hope you will become rising stars in the future world of magic. As the old headmaster's words were said, the students on the grounds could no longer hold back the joy in their hearts. Who doesn't want to wield flaming fires that brim with the power to destroy your enemies? Who doesn't want to wield ice and freeze the world over? Who doesn't want to dominate and gallop across the world with arrogance? Who doesn't want to wield the power of earth and resist invaders? Within innumerable stories, videos, and movies, there are many heroes who are worshipped. Furthermore, this motivates these students to become a certain kind of magician. Today is their first step into that journey, to become a mage who roams the territories of the magical beasts outside of the city, or to rule the city of magic with their paramount powers. There were 20 different classes that would conduct the awakening. Mo Fan was number 48. He would be the last person to receive the awakening. The homeroom teacher, who was also their magic advisor, Xue Musheng, was already standing at the very front. The awakening would be conducted in front of numerous people. The student's name was called out, and then they would go up front to place their hands on the awakening stone in front of the magic advisor. Hey, the one who entered through the back door, you're not going to fail the awakening, are you? I heard that there are certain incapable people who fail the awakening. A dreg like you should just stop wasting the energy of the expensive awakening stone on a different lineup. An old classmate of Mo Fan, Zhao Kunsan, said. Zhao Kunsan was Mubai's henchman. Mubai personally didn't bully Mo Fan because of his background, so instead, he primarily used Zhao Kun-san to do it. It was actually possible for the awakening to fail, so Mo Fan was genuinely worried about this part. Strictly speaking, he was, a person who had crossed from a different plane. If his physical body was different from the people from here, then that'd be one of hell of a joke. Brother Mo Fan, just ignore this jerk. Wait until you awaken a fire element and show him. Then he'll know the meaning behind the phrase, look down on people from a dog's eyes. Zhang Ho, who was placed in the same class as Mo Fan, said. Mo Fan didn't say anything. If it was a different day, he would have thrown all sorts of insults at henchman Zhao Kun-san. However, he wasn't in the mood today. On one hand, it was because he was truly very nervous. While on the other hand, he didn't know why the black pendant he wore around his neck was incessantly shaking. The black-colored pendant was the remnant of the backdoor gatekeeper of his old middle school, Old Man Ying. Mo Fan suspected that this ring was the reason behind the great changes in the world. That day, Mo Fan was wearing this pendant when he fell asleep on the mountain behind his school. Ever since this morning, the broken pendant had been acting like it was possessed, constantly trembling. It shook so much that it made his own hand shake without stopping. Screw your mother. Why do you keep shaking? You're just a stupid pendant. So why aren't you acting like the pendant you are? Mu Bai, the homeroom teacher, Shuoi Mu Sheng, called out. Oh, so that's Mu Bai. He is indeed very handsome and his grades are the top as well. Yeah, I saw him this morning. I like it. I wonder what kind of element he'll awaken. I reckon it won't be crap elements like water or light, will it? Mu Bai stood up and immediately heard a few girls in his class chattering incessantly about him. At same time, he also attracted starry-eyed infatuations from other classes. Mu Bai wore an indifferent expression. His eyes, however, revealed that he was enjoying others discussing him. He walked to the front and stood before the homeroom teacher, a humble and confident smile on his face. Mu Bai, you're from the Mu family who is renowned for their ice element, right? Shu Mu Sheng asked with a slight smile. Precisely. Good, if you awaken the ice element, then you will be superior compared to others. However, don't forget to put in effort too. After all, talent isn't the decisive aspect to everything. Mu Bai nodded, but he thought to himself, yes, talent can't decide everything. But without talent and family resources, then one would have to live forever at the bottom of the society. With permission from the homeroom teacher, Mu Bai slowly placed his hands on the floating awakening stone. A thick, star-shaped compass emerged, along with a clear palm print on the awakening stone. Mu Bai seemed tranquil, but his heart was nervous as he placed his hands on the awakening stone. Thanks to his bloodline, the possibility of him awakening ice element was very high. However, there could also be exceptional circumstances. If he awakened the water or light element, then the Mu family was unlikely to continue attaching any importance to him. After all, there was no way they would waste their finances just so they could find resources suitable to a different attribute. He placed his left hand on the stone. The awakening stone suddenly emanated a starry radiance. This radiance turned into strips of star marks that appeared to be an extraordinary vein as it landed on Mu Bai's left hand. This was everyone's first time seeing the awakening with their own eyes. The students were all tiptoeing as they watched Mu Bai. Mu Bai was standing there unmoving, as though he was suddenly enlightened. He then raised his head slowly. Creak, creak, skreeka. Sudden frosty air curled itself around the awakening stone. The air became more and more dense. It actually slowly froze the surface of the awakening stone, forming a layer of frost. Ice element? It really is the ice element. Suddenly, a person behind him began yelling. Following this yell, a few girls screeched. As Mu Bai heard the noises, he opened his eyes in joy. It's actually the ice element. With the ice element, it would be easier for him to be taken in by the Mu family. The day where he would soar through the skies was not far. To deal with someone like Mo Fan, the dregs of the society, would be like pinching an ant to death. Ah, that's not right. After awakening the ice element, I will become an official disciple of the Mu family. There is no reason for me to lower myself to the level of a beggar. I need to set my standards higher. Who knows? I might even have an opportunity to cultivate together with Mu Ningshu. Very good. It is a very pure ice element. I believe an ice element stardust should be appearing within your spiritual world. Cultivate harder, and make it grow even stronger, the homeroom teacher said, with eyes full of praise. The ability to freeze the awakening stone during the awakening meant that the power of his ice element surpassed the average person. He was likely to be a very talented ice element apprentice, and his future was very promising. Next, Qiu Yuing. After the homeroom teacher said this, a girl with a somewhat confident look on her face came over. All right, Earth element. The power of your stardust isn't bad at all. It seems like the effort you put in is showing. Next, Shu Qinglin, also ice element. At this moment, Mo Fan tiptoed to watch. He discovered that the person who also awakened the ice element, Shu Qinglin, caused a layer of faint frosty mist to emerge. It did not freeze the awakening stone, though. From this, one could tell that even if this was the ice element, Shu Qinglin's talent and cultivation was much lower than Mu Bai. Next, Lu Xiaobing. Water element. Oh my god, how could I be water element? I should be a fire element. Suddenly, the classmate called Lu Xiaobing called out in bewilderment. The people within the circumference of 100 mi heard this. Don't be discouraged. No matter what element you cultivate, as long as you can become an intermediate level mage, you will obtain even more recognition. Lu Xiaobing had no other choice. He could only return to his own seat in low spirits. In fact, the awakening in the beginning was very important. If it was a fire element, then one could possess a certain level of combat prowess as a primary level magician. That allowed future cultivation to happen much more easily. The primary level water element skill was Water Shield, and its defensive power was not as strong as the earth element. If one was not proficient in it, then the effects were not very clear. At the very least, that's how it worked among the primary rank mages. Next, Zhang Ho. Standing not too far from Mo Fan, the monkey-looking Zhang Ho turned his head around and gave Mo Fan a glance. Brother Mo Fan, I'm going now. All right, good luck. I hope you will also get water element, Zhao Kunsan immediately said in sarcasm. Zhang Ho was just a skinny monkey stick. As he put his hands on it, an odd wind vortex appeared on the awakening stone, causing the teacher's clothes to move slightly. Very good. Wind element. Your talent isn't bad at all. Practice hard and don't be lazy. Shu Musheng's face also revealed a look of satisfaction. The homeroom teacher, Shu Musheng, was feeling very happy. This was because he had only reached 10 or so of them, and there were already 2 talented students who had appeared. If they were to cultivate well, then they would definitely be admitted into a good university. Naturally, what made his face light up like a gem was student number 1, Mu Bai. An outstanding ice element talent coupled with the ice element family behind him, his future capabilities would be of a great asset. It seemed like the Class 8 had an opportunity to become one of the top classes this year. Next. Puan orange-colored fire suddenly lit up on top of the awakening stone. This scene caused the entire class to widen their eyes. Fire element, sheet. It turned out to be a girl. What's her name? For a moment, the girl who awakened the fire element became the focus of the class. This element was the most amazing one among the chemical elements. This was also the apprentice-level mage's first choice in awakening. If they were able to choose which elements to get, then... Unfortunately, the fire element was quite arrogant yet tender, and the probability of awakening it was quite low. In a class, there'd be at most 3 of them. That's not even 1 every 10th students. Her name is Zhou Min. It seems like she's the daughter of some teacher, someone said in a whisper. She looks really good. We should get to know her better. We should be cautious. This Zhou Min looks like she's very quiet and obedient, but in reality, she's very short-tempered and violent. How else could a girl awaken the fire element? That makes sense. Daughter is just like mother. If Mrs. Wenhua knows about this, then I'm sure she'll be excited, the homeroom teacher, Shu Mosheng, said. Thank you, teacher. Next, the wind element. Next, light element. Heavens, I'm going to the roof. Don't stop me, the light element student said. Next, water element. Classmate with the light element, wait for me. I'm coming with you to the roof. Next. Newest chapters on NOVLB and COM. Finally, when it seemed like the entire class had their elements awakened, Mo Fan's hand held the student number 48 as his heart madly skipped incessantly. Perhaps no one else was as nervous as Mo Fan, On one hand, his first interaction with magic was only 3 months ago, while on the other hand, he was really worried that he'd fail his awakening. Number 48, Mo Fan. It's your turn. Zhang Hao turned his head around and encouraged him, sacrificing everything to get in here. Just don't hold any kind of hope. If your luck is good, you could get water element. If you can't reach the intermediate level mage, then you'll have wasted it. If your luck is bad, then your awakening will fail. Tisk, 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 and by then you'll be expelled, Zhao Kunsan said with sarcasm. Would you shut your dog mouth? Zhang Hao said with slight anger. Zhang Hao saw Mo Fan as a big brother. Although his grades in magic were bad, and he entered Magic High through the back door, Zhang Hao absolutely did not wish to see Mo Fan's awakening be worse than others. The 9-year compulsory magic education actually served to build a foundation for the awakening, as well as the theories for cultivation afterward. If they didn't study well, then on one hand, the awakening might fail, while on the other, the cultivation might not advance. Mo Fan took large strides and passed through the crowds of people. It's him. It seems like he entered through the back door. Who is this? He looks pretty handsome, a girl asked dreamily. A dreg of a student. I was originally from the class next to his, another girl with a mushroom head and large mouth said. Is that so? Then his awakening might be bad. Whether he will succeed his awakening is the real question. Those of you who awakened light or water element, don't worry. Wait till you see this Mo Fan awaken. Then you'll feel much better. This guy's exam score was at 1 digit, and his foundation is completely sheet. His awakening is likely to fail. At that moment, Zhao Kunsan spat at Zhang Hao with a straightforward, loud voice that carried a sense of mocking. As he said this, the light and water element students' eyes turned bright. If there really was a person that failed their awakening, then that would really make them feel relieved. Stop making a racket. Xu Musheng glared at Zhao Kunsan. The corner of Mubai's mouth slowly curled up. He wanted Mo Fan to be humiliated in front of everyone. What qualifications did he have to approach Lady Mu Ningxu? He's just a loser. Someone as handsome as me, with a good talent in magic and who makes great efforts, who is Mu Ningxu's relation, should be very intimate with her. Dreg, I heard that your family sold the house so you could do the awakening. If you really happen to fail the awakening, then you should just find a river and jump into it. That way your problems will be solved. Then you can also save your family from being humiliated, Mubai said, with a delicate whisper as Mo Fan passed by. Mo Fan glanced at Mubai. He endured the impulse to curse at the idiot as he walked to the front of Xu Musheng. Mo Fan, put your hands here, Xu Musheng said, with a gentle tone. As the homeroom teacher, Xu Musheng was very clear on the circumstances of the student in front of him. His middle school exams were essentially at the bottom. He was only able to enter Tianlan Magic High because of the higher-ups pulling strings. From how Xu Musheng saw it, Mo Fan was from a normal family. No background, no talent. His grades were so bad that he didn't even want to look at them. This kind of student being sent to his class was simply a headache. It was very easy for him to pull down the average of the class. There's nothing I can do about it. I'll have to count myself unlucky. Hopefully this kid won't actually fail his awakening, or else he'll become the laughingstock for the entire year. Mo Fan's hands was constantly shaking. At the end of the day, he was still a little nervous. Smooth and steady, don't shake, Xu Musheng said as a reminder. Mo Fan used his left hand to grab onto his right hand. In this way, he successfully put his right hand onto the awakening stone. It's cold. He didn't know if it was because the last person had awakened the ice element, causing the entire awakening stone to be ice cold. Something's not right. Why is it beginning to feel numb and hot? Close your eyes and feel your spiritual world, Xu Musheng said. What a troublesome student. He doesn't even know the basics. Mo Fan hastily closed his eyes as instructed. This so-called spiritual world could be seen when one closed their eyes, and within their head, a piece of void would emerge. A normal person would continually imagine in this void, and just like movie fragments, there would be those indistinct scenes. When one emptied their mind and stopped thinking, the mind became a void, just like a sky without a star. Within the spiritual world, there was nothing at all. However, when Mo Fan placed his hand on the awakening stone, he could feel the power of lightning. This power was transmitted from his hand to his body. Following this, there was suddenly a miraculous power within his empty spiritual world. which caused a purple-colored arc to streak across the world. It was gorgeous, magnificent, and an experience that shocked his soul. Within the empty spiritual world was a little bit of light. Mo Fan carefully tried to focus his awareness on it. Suddenly, he noticed a tiny bit of stardust emerging from the void. Mo Fan felt a burst of excitement. This stardust was extremely important to mages. It measured the mage's cultivation. The stardust existed within the spiritual world of mages, and the more that occupied the void, the stronger the power of the mage. Mo Fan already saw something illuminated within the stardust. It looked like a small, purple-colored star cluster. Comparing it to the rest of the spiritual world, the cluster did not look like dust. While at the same time, this meant that his awakening had not failed. The book clearly stated that as long as there was a star cluster within the spiritual world, no matter how weak and feeble it was, it meant that the awakening was successful. Haha, who said that this father I would fail the awakening? Didn't I succeed the awakening? I really want to see the aghast faces of Zhao Kun-san and Mubai. Hold on, what's the color of the star cluster? It's not red. How unfortunate. I didn't awaken the fire element. Red represents the fire element. Green represents the wind element. Brown represents the earth element. Blue represents the water element. Gold represents the light element. Purple represents holy scrap. Suddenly, Mo Fan was completely flabbergasted. Purple. All newest chapters on Novelby in Ohm. He actually had the purple star cluster, the purple sea color. Heavens! Someone in the class next to us awakened the lightning element. On the training ground, a student suddenly cried out in surprise. What? Lightning element appeared? Sheet, that's a whole lifetime's worth of luck. Where? Whoa, what a dazzling and ruthless purple. The homeroom teacher of class 7 must have been quite surprised. Kill me already. Why am I water element? Why didn't I get the lightning element? Don't stop me. I'm going to the roof. Don't bother jumping, you won't die. Beneath it lies the corpse of a light element user. This lightning element student will cause an uproar throughout the entire school. After the lightning element appeared, everyone felt a shocking sensation. If one said the fire element was the first choice of all the common mages, then the lightning element was the beautiful grace bestowed from the heavens. The lightning power was more tyrannical than the fire element. It allowed primary rank magicians to possess a combat prowess that exceeded others. According to statistics from the teachers, there was a 50% chance for students who awakened the lightning element to become intermediate level magicians unless they slacked off and did not study properly. The Magic Middle School exam basically eliminated roughly 60% of the students. The remaining 40% became students who were allowed to go through the awakening. Among the students who went through the awakening, there might be around 60% who were eliminated. This was because during their 3 years at the Magic High, there was a chance that they would not be able to release any magic at all. There's 1,500 students in school, but only one student who awakened the lightning element. This went to show how rare the lightning element was. In that moment, all the teachers' and students' eyes flew toward the boy in class 7. This boy, coincidentally, wore purple clothes. This made the indistinct purple lightning arc from the awakening seem increasingly dazzling. In that moment, this seemingly confident yet cold boy became the focal point for 1,000 people as he gave rise to a boiling excitement from the crowd. Whoa, why is it so noisy? Mo Fan slowly opened his eyes. His face was filled with joy. However, as Mo Fan opened his eyes, he discovered the teacher who was watching over him was completely enchanted with the class next to them. Mo Fan turned his head around and saw the students behind him also looking at the class next to them. What's going on? Where are you guys looking? Soon enough, Mo Fan finally found out what was going on. Apparently, a person in the class next to his had awakened the lightning element. In the instant of Mo Fan awakening, the teachers' and students' gazes were directed toward the lad who awakened just before him. Mo Fan's face was filled with bitterness as he looked at the awakening stone, which was also leaping with a purple lightning arc. He really wished he could just slap the homeroom teacher across the face and tell him, "Why are you envying the sheet in the class next to ours? Look at me, I also possess the almighty lightning element." As Mo Fan was about to speak, a starry radiance suddenly lit up again on the awakening stone. It was as though blood vessels began forming on Mo Fan's hands. Mo Fan's face filled with surprise. Wasn't the awakening over? Why was this awakening stone starting up again? Mo Fan wanted to retract his arm, but the magic power had already been transmitted into his body from his palm. Fiery hot, a fiery hot power. Mo Fan himself had no idea on what was happening. However, a small part of the power urged him to once again spread his awareness into his spiritual world and perceive the second power's invasion. Within the empty spiritual world, the purple star cluster remained in the same area, sparkling with a faint radiance. Seeing this made people eager to see it dazzle and bloom more brightly. This was the star cluster of the lightning element, the power he had awakened only moments ago. The other power from the awakening charged in like the lightning element. Within Mo Fan's spiritual world was a blazing arc streaking across like a burning meteor, causing Mo Fan to tremble. This ice within his spiritual world emerged a red star cluster. Mo Fan was at a loss in the beginning, but he soon felt an excessive joy. Fire element. He had also awakened a fire element. Unexpectedly, he had dual elements. He had actually awakened dual elements. One had to understand that among the primary ranked magicians, students could only awaken a single element. Someone who could awaken dual elements was practically non-existent. The probability of it was 1,000,000 times lower than awakening lightning element. Heavens! Mo Fan felt like he was suddenly knocked unconscious with happiness. The appearance of the lightning element had made him go wild with joy. With the fire element emerging and becoming a natural dual element user, he felt like he was about to cry from such intense joy. After acquiring the knowledge surrounding magic, Mo Fan was very clear on the fact that having an additional element signified that he'd be one step ahead of others, despite the fact that the cultivation of the elements would need to be independent of each other. It was like an online game. The people on the server were only allowed to create one account and bitterly battled against monsters to level up, whereas he himself could create 2 accounts. The most important factor to this was that he could combine the 2 accounts and have it on a single character, so his combat prowess would be more than 1 plus 1 equal to 2. This is too good. I have a natural dual element, one that was the heaven-shattering lightning element, while the other was the ferocious fire element. Who could stop me at this point? The guilt over his father selling his house and being humiliated was cleansed in that moment. Mo Fan was very clear on the fact that if he put great effort into cultivating the 2 elements, then he would become a magician who would stand above the others at the same level. Who cared about the Mu family with 100 years of heritage? Who cared about the ice element family? Is that as amazing as the dual element that your father, I, am in possession of? Ha 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 ha. Really, Jiaqi H. Why wasn't this student assigned to my class? Instead, he was placed into Zhang Jiangguo's hand. This Zhang Jiangguo's face is going to be filled with pride from today on. Zhou Musheng's own face was filled with envy and jealousy. While in the front, Mubai's face was filled with shock and was followed by a bit of gloom and disdain. The lightning element is extraordinary. However, if you don't know how to cultivate it, then you'll just stay a loser. Having some strong element appearing in China, which has a large population, isn't anything out of the norm. It's not like he's a natural dual element user. You dare to steal my limelight? Watch me trample you flat on the ground in the future. Oh, I almost forgot to check what kind of element this drag has. The awakening took so long, so it must have failed. Whoa, it's a fire element. This is serious. Our class has yet another fire element. Who said he would fail his awakening? It turns out he awakened the fire element. That sure makes me envy him. After the disturbance from the shocking lightning element had calmed itself, everyone finally discovered the element Mo Fan had awakened. The girl, Zhou Min, who awakened the fire element earlier, seemed a little shocked. She intentionally looked closer at Mo Fan and discovered that there was indeed fire sprouting from the awakening stone. The sprouting fire seemed to be a bit more vicious than the one she had herself. There's yet another fire element appearing in Class A. Although it's not as rare as the lightning element, the fire element is still incredible. Fire element. Mu Sheng looked dull as he looked at the student before him. The appearance of the lightning element almost made Zhu Musheng forget about the existence of this troublemaker. Originally, he thought this student would have failed his awakening. However, he never thought that he would actually succeed in his awakening, and never did he think that he would even awaken the preeminent fire element. This is also a treasure. Furthermore, judging by the exuberant level of the flames, it seems like his talent was even higher than Zhou Min's. Shu Musheng never thought that the student he thought to be a liability would unexpectedly give him face instead. Not bad, that's really not bad at all. What's your name? Oh, Mo Fan, right? Shu Musheng was smiling so wide that his eyes looked as if it was closed. Yeah, Mo Fan nodded. Mo Fan originally thought that people saw his lightning element awakening. However, after looking around himself, he realized that no one had actually taken notice of that. Read latest chapters at novalbab.com. Only. Either the person who awakened the lightning element was exceedingly shocking, or his own lightning element awakening's power was too weak. The pressure emanating from the awakening in the beginning matters, however. It's not a decisive factor. Even if the pressure from the beginning was weak, one could still put in efforts to slowly cultivate it, allowing it to grow even stronger. Fire element student. You must strive to do well in the future. If you have something you don't understand, don't hesitate to ask me, Zhou Musheng happily said as he patted Mo Fan on his shoulders. Mo Fan was still feeling ecstatic. However, he didn't let himself indulge in this happiness. If it was any other youth, then they would most likely reveal the lightning element they had awakened previously, using the credibility of natural dual elements to completely steal the audience's attention from the other lightning element student. Mo Fan was not going to do that. If the heavens can be jealous of a genius, then how would mortals feel? Mo Fan knew that there's someone who carries hostility toward himself in the Mu family. Thus, if he were to reveal that he possesses natural dual elements, then either he would have to comply with their wishes, or they would simply get rid of him. Although Mo Fan did possess the peerless dual elements, he himself was still too weak. It was not too late to go crazy after he had gotten stronger. Mo Fan turned his head around to see the reaction of Mu Bai and Zhao Kunsan. Sure enough, the two lads' faces were twitching. What kind of luck does this kid have? Let's not even talk about the successful awakening, but he even awakened the fire element. Although Mu Bai looked dignified, his heart was harshly cursing him. What the heck? How is this possible? Fire element. The henchman, Zhao Kunsan, stared in confusion. Ha ha ha, I've said it before. Brother Mo Fan is indeed not normal. Fire element, impressive. It really is impressive. Who cares about you, Zhao Kunsan, with your wind element? Zhang Hao jumped in joy. He saw the henchman, Zhao Kunsan's face, and immediately sensed resentment. Zhao Kunsan's face was filled with rage. If one were to compare primary ranked wind element with fire element, then wind element will definitely be the losing side. Mo Fan turned around with an unrestrained smile on his face as he bathed under the sunlight. Suddenly, it was as though the carpet beneath his foot spread out with two girls squealing. He was filled with confidence. As he walked past Mu Bai, Mo Fan sneakily gave him a middle finger. The entire action was done in a smooth way. It looked like they were just greeting each other. Mu Bai felt as though he had received the full force of Mo Fan's ridicule. His breathing became so heavy it was practically about to explode. He took a deep breath. Mu Bai told himself to maintain his image. He must maintain his image. He couldn't stoop down to the same level as this beggar. He himself is the little young master of the Mu family, whereas this guy is just the son of a part-time worker. Let's not talk about this loser succeeding in his awakening. He had even awakened the fire element that has a superiority in its preceding period. I guess even losers have their luck. Additionally, what made him even angrier was the appearance of the rare lightning element in the class next to them. The attention from Mu Bai's own ancestral ice element was completely stomped by him. Sheet. Mu Bai, whose appearance seemed like a Prince Charming, was harshly cursing in his heart. Mo Fan returned to his place, while at the same time, he felt the gaze from his surrounding classmates that were completely different from before. The fire element. We better not provoke this guy in the future. Provoke. We should improve our relations with him. If a light element user like myself should mix in school, then I'd need a big brother with fire element to support me. All right, what's his name? Was it Mo Fan? The surrounding students were whispering, but it still somewhat was caught by Mo Fan's ears. Mo Fan felt his mood turn even better, while at the same time, he glanced toward Mu Bai, who had also heard this. Sure enough, one could see a little dissatisfaction on Mu Bai's face. Mo Fan already knew what kind of trash Mubai is. From day to night, he just acts like a green tea. The fake and emotionless expression he keeps on his face means that on the inside, he felt extremely dissatisfied. Green tea man. You turn green with envy when your daddy awakens the fire element? Just wait till you know that I, Mo Fan, also possess the lightning element. You may even commit harakiri, wouldn't you? Note, green tea essentially means putting up a front, but is actually just a complete ass. The summer became autumn. The dead leaves whirled along with the wind as they finally landed on the school grounds. On the side of the school grounds was a dense shade of trees. The afternoon sunlight shone through a gap in the leaves, turning into threads of light, like a particular autumn stage. For Mo Fan, the time passed by very quickly. It had already been 2 months since his awakening. Within those 2 months, Mo Fan had only been doing one thing, which was sitting beneath this tree and meditating. On the first class of the first day, the homeroom teacher, Shui Musheng, gave all the magic students one very important lesson: the activation of magic. The activation of magic consisted of only 3 very simple steps. Step 1, meditation. Step 2, control. Step 3, activation. Meditation, just as the name implied, required one to use their fullest attention to concentrate. When a person closed their eyes, their mind constantly wandered into different scenes. However, if one were to empty one's mind and remain in an undisturbed state, one's mind would become an empty space. After their magic awakening, a star cluster corresponding to the element would emerge within that empty world. In other words, as long as Mo Fan closed his eyes and didn't think about anything while allowing his mind to enter a dark, cosmos-like space, then the star cluster of lightning and fire elements would emerge within the empty space. The lightning element's star cluster was purple, and it looked just like other cosmic dust, magnificent and aesthetically pleasing. Within the star cluster of the lightning element was 7 stars. These stars were recklessly orbiting around within that small star cluster, just like 7 mischievous children, energetically running around. For any magic students who had awakened, as long as they could cause the star cluster to appear within the empty space and see the bright childlike stars within the cluster, then they would have completed the meditation step. One could even say that this first step was unexpectedly simple. The homework assigned to the students for the first 2 months was this alone: meditation. They started meditating after dinner, all the way until they were completely exhausted, and then they went to sleep. The second day, after classes had finished, they continued meditating in the same manner, all the way until they were exhausted, and then went straight to bed. Mo Fan did not slack off. He did this for 2 whole months. He even sat down and meditated on weekends. On many different occasions, he pondered about why the students were assigned this simple task and had them do it for 2 months. What if I go ahead and try control? Mo Fan thought it was very easy for him to enter meditation, thus he was eager to begin the next step. The second step of magic activation was also very simple. One could see the star cluster after entering meditation. Within the star cluster was 7 lively and energetic stars that were orbiting around frantically. Control. It meant they had to use their own thoughts to control these stars, making them stop and placing them into a designated spot to form a star path. Once they had successfully formed the star path, the magic power would be conducted through the star path into the magician's body, thus becoming genuine magic as they activate They sure run fast. Let this daddy touch you. Mo Fan began attempting to connect the stars. He used his own thoughts to control the stars. At the moment, Mo Fan was locked on an energetic star, trying to make it obediently halt in its place. Whoosh, that star was extremely cold. It didn't give Mo Fan any attention. It was like a loli quickly escaping from a strange uncle. Sheet, they're being tsundere. Forget it. Let's try a different one. Mo Fan attempted to connect the other lightning element star. Be a good boy. Daddy is here. Be an obedient boy and come here. Whoosh, the second star acted as though it met a patient with a mental illness. Thus, it fled quickly, just like the one before it. Mo Fan attempted the same thing on the other stars as well, but the results were the same. Not a single one cared about Mo Fan. There were even a few that started moving faster when they felt Mo Fan's thoughts trying to control them. You couldn't conduct the magic power when the stars were quickly orbiting. It's just like an electrical wire. The electric energy is the interior part of the star cluster. If one wanted to use the electric energy, one would have to form a wire with the stars so it could guide the energy into the magician's body. Unfortunately, there was not a single obedient one among the lightning element stars. If he didn't touch them, then they were fine. But once he attempted to connect them with each other, they would quickly run away. It was like eating 500 pounds of stride gum pieces. They just wouldn't stop. How do I deal with this? How many years and months is it going to take before this daddy learns lightning strike? Mo Fan felt a headache. The primary rank skill of lightning element was lightning strike. This skill should be the most practical one among the primary rank magic. After learning it and becoming proficient in controlling it, one would basically have a preeminent combat prowess. Unfortunately, learning skills wasn't easy. The lightning element stars were highly active. Trying to make them stop was not something one could accomplish in just a day or two. I can't even control a single star at the moment. To control 7 of the stars simultaneously. This road really isn't short. All newest chapters on No Velby and Com. Sure enough, studying and learning magic was the same. It wasn't something you could do in just a few days. The weather turned cold. The short skirts and stockings were replaced with thick leggings and pants. Unknowingly, the season where you turn into a dog if you don't own a heater had finally come to the south. Achoo sheet. If I knew this was going to happen, then I would have just cultivated the fire element first. At the very least, I'd be able to pass this winter in comfort. In the early morning, Mo Fan cursed as he practiced control on the roof. He had cultivated for yet another month. Mo Fan was now able to control up to 4 stars. The process of controlling the stars. Well, how to put this? It's like an advanced domino setup. In other words, if you were to carefully place 4 domino bricks down, and if there was not even the slightest wobbling, then it would count as completing a small step. If a domino brick wasn't placed properly, then it'd tip over and you'd have to start all over again. The stars were just like that. Firstly, you would have to target a star and use your thoughts to make it stop. In the process of making them stop, you would have to concentrate all of your attention on it, even if you experienced resistance from a star that lead to a great headache. You'd still have to grit your teeth and not let it distract your focus. Only when grinding your teeth could you centralize your focus within your mind to control them and make them stop. Only then could you make some of the violent stars obediently follow your control. After you were in control of one star, then you would have to split your consciousness and do the same thing in order for you to firmly control the second one. If one were to accidentally put too much attention on the second star and not continue to put in the same focus on the first one, then the originally obedient star would immediately orbit away. Additionally, it would also take away the second star that was in the process of being controlled and waste the entire effort. The teacher had said once before, the step of controlling the stars was extremely difficult. On one hand, the difficulty of controlling them was exceedingly high, while on the other, the magician needed to have enough spiritual power to spare. If one were to practice control every day, like Mo Fan, and every time they failed at it, they would feel their mind become somewhat tired. One could practice for, at most, 2 hours in a single day, and by then one would be in a state where one was nearly mentally broken. One would have tinnitus, blurred vision, and a mind in chaos. At this point, one should not meditate or attempt control again. To be frank, practicing control was like a thief. Hell, a waste of mana. Mo Fan could only last at most 2 hours with his current mana. 4 stars is firmly under my control now. The difficulty of controlling 5 at the same time is much harder. Mo Fan sighed and thought, I wonder if I can control all 7 of these scoundrels and form a star path before the end of the semester. Speaking of which, Monkey said that most people can only practice control an hour every week. If they trained an additional 5 minutes, then they collapse. I wonder why I could practice 2 hours when I first started. Is it because I awakened dual elements? The mana usage in taking control of a star should be the same. That means my mana capacity is double the amount of most other people? There was a limit to each of the magic students' spiritual forces, and every time one attempted to control a star, it would deplete their spiritual force. Most of the current magic students' spiritual force levels only allowed 1 hour of control training. Having 1 more hour advantage, coupled with the great effort Mo Fan put into his daily training, allowed his cultivation speed to already surpass his peers by a lot. According to the henchman, even the most outstanding student in the class could only control 3 stars. Of the 7 stars, Mo Fan was already able to control 4 of them. Furthermore, he hoped to achieve up to 5 stars within the month. It seemed like awakening dual elements not only gave Mo Fan double the elements, but also an extended amount of time for him to practice compared to other people. This was an incredible advantage. The time for him to enter the apex of his life and marry a fair-skinned, rich, and beautiful girl was just around the corner. Your favorite stories on NOVLBin.com. The class started at 8 in the morning, and the first class was the Magical Beast Knowledge class. The one in charge of teaching the Magical Beast subject was the homeroom teacher of the class next door, Zhang Jiangguo. Mo Fan, you are late again. Can't you improve your attitude toward school? Your talent has always been worse than the majority of the students. Your foundation is also particularly bad, and you're not even sincere about studying. Take a look at Zhao Ting in my class. He has lightning element, a good talent, a good foundation, and his attitude towards studying magic is also very good. He is currently able to control 4 lightning element stars, whereas I heard that you still haven't been able to control a single fire element star. You awakening the fire element is simply a waste. As Zhang Jiangguo saw Mo Fan coming in late, he immediately began to reprimand him without holding back. Mo Fan couldn't help but give a conceited look. Teacher Zhang Jiangguo really couldn't stop talking. He brought up that lightning element guy during practically every lesson. The so-called classmate, Zhao Ting, was the guy who awakened the lightning element during the school's opening ceremony. Zhang Jiangguo talked about him every day. When he lectured someone using Zhao Ting's name, his face revealed the pride he concealed beneath. That guy can control 4 stars? This daddy can control 6 stars. I just need 1 last star, Mo Fan thought to himself in disdain. He didn't say this out loud though. Instead, he just walked to his seat in leisure. All right, please open the Magical Beast book. Today, I will continue to talk about the common magical beasts. As everyone knows, the magical beasts are located outside of the city, which we humans reside in, and they are extremely hostile towards humans. They wander all over the place and fight when they encounter each other as well. If a magician was to tread outside of the city and encounter a one-eyed magic wolf, then what should he do? Zhang Jiangguo already started talking about this subject with a great delight. One-eyed magic wolf. This was the kind of magical beast that resided in the area closest to the human city. Mo Fan had only seen one through the textbooks and videos. They had a vicious appearance. A normal person was unable to deal with this kind of organism. Only a mage was able to battle them. However, if the group of magic students, who couldn't activate their magic, was to meet a one-eyed magic wolf, then it'd be a bloody massacre. The one-eyed magic wolf was the highlight of the magical beast classes. Zhang Jiangguo had already spent a month talking about this type of magical beast, which by this point annoyed Mo Fan. Currently, Mo Fan relied on his double cultivation time to reach the control of 6 stars. As long as he could focus his mind, then he could make the 6 stars obediently form a star path. The thing is, the 7th star was particularly difficult to control. It was like a chase girl. Go soft and you'll suffer. Go hard and she won't listen. This made Mo Fan feel particularly anxious. I'm just bloody missing this one last step. Brother Fan, how is the cultivation progress of the fire element? Zhang Ho hastily asked as he saw Mo Fan sitting down. The same as before, Mo Fan answered leisurely. Fire element. Just like the rumors Zhang Jiangguo had heard, Mo Fan was still unable to control a single fire element star. That was something he could do nothing about. He had invested all of his energy on the big shot, lightning element student this entire semester. No way. It seems like your foundation really has affected your cultivation. I heard that guy Mubai is already able to control 4 ice element stars. If he were to put even more effort in during his winter vacation, then he will most likely be able to activate the primary rank ice element skill, Ice Spiral, Zhang Ho said. I know. Big brother, how are you not anxious at all? Let me tell you, him and his henchman Zhao Kun-san are already scheming a plan against you. Don't worry. Let them come. Mo Fan's current mind was full of how to control the 7th star. Everything else was treated the same as air. Zhang Ho sighed. Just be careful. This semester is almost over. You should really do your best in the next semester. If you can't complete the magic activation during the next semester's end-of-term magic activation exam, then the school could find all kinds of excuses to force you to resign. The school semester quickly ended, and Mo Fan faintly felt the seventh star being moved by his sincerity. Damn it. Cultivation is even harder than awaiting the presence of a goddess, trying to communicate and pay my greetings every day and night. Mo Fan complained as he walked toward the school exit. Mo Fan had practically never left the school during the entire semester. He would spend 2 hours every day to practice control, and after practicing that, he'd spend the next 10 hours to meditate. Afterward, he'd just go to class, eat his meal, and sleep without ceasing for a single day. Regardless of what happened, this semester was over. After the students received their winter semester assignment, each went their way home, and each went to find their own mom. After exiting the school gates, Mo Fan subconsciously waited for the bus to go home to his house. However, he then realized and immediately became speechless. I almost forgot that Dad sold the house. I am essentially homeless now. Father Mo Jackson spent most of his time driving, which meant he didn't have time for a house. The homeless Mo Fan thought about this. It seems like it's time to see little aunt and pay a visit to Shin Xia. It's been half a year not seeing Shin Xia. I wonder how she's doing at little aunt's place. I'll just go straight to her school to pick her up then. Mo Fan caught the bus heading toward her middle school. Sitting on the bus, Mo Fan had nothing to do, so he continued to practice control to see whether the seventh star would submit itself or not. A different element had different stars, and each different star had a different temperament. Some were easier to deceive. Mo Fan only needed to spend a few nights sweet-talking them, and most of them would then listen. However, some were especially violent and hard to deal with. If you weren't careful, you could suffer a rebound in your mind. That kind of rebound carried a dense pain to the mind. The usage of spiritual power would also be several times greater. The seventh star that Mo Fan was unable to control belonged to the violent type. It didn't listen. It attacked brutally, and it was simply as difficult to accommodate as a great aunt. Fortunately for him, recently their relationship had advanced by leaps and bounds. The violent star was slowly displaying a will to listen, otherwise Mo Fan would really cry. He had spent almost an entire month on this seventh star. Come on. Come, get in a line, number off. Mo Fan calmed himself and put his full focus on once more attempting to control the seventh star. The first star was the most obedient one. After all, it had been caressed every day. As soon as Mo Fan issued a command, the star immediately stopped its lively movements, leaving it floating in the middle of the stardust. The second star seemed somewhat stubborn. It showed an unwillingness to cooperate as it quickly followed the first star. Following behind them were the third, fourth, and fifth stars. The sixth star was extremely obedient. It eagerly ran to the formation. All right, there's only the last star left. Mo Fan put all of his focus, all of his spiritual powers, into the seventh star. The seventh star orbited at a high speed within the stardust before it heard Mo Fan's thoughts and gradually slowed down. It carried an impatience and unhappiness as it slowly took its place in the star path. Good boy, good boy, good boy, good boy. As Mo Fan noticed the seventh star showing signs of submitting, he began to feel a slight excitement. The first 6 stars are like dogs. If you shout, then they'll obediently sit down, motionless. The seventh star was like a cat, freaking cold and impatient from head to toe. Since you want me to stay still, then I'll do my best to make it difficult for you. Slowly, slowly, the seventh star finally stopped in its tracks as it followed along the path of the other 6 stars. Star path complete. Magic appear. Mo Fan, who wore a black t-shirt, was sitting in the back row of the bus. He suddenly had a curved track curling around his body. A purple stardust trajectory flashed past, giving Mo Fan's body an indescribable force. Lightning strike. It's lightning strike. Mo Fan's heart gave rise to a wild excitement. He couldn't help but want to laugh toward the sky. Zit on his right fist, an arc of lightning coiled around his arm like a python. The force of the purple lightning fist was stored within Mo Fan's hand. If he were to brandish his hand, lightning would be sent toward the middle of the bus. Oh my God. Mage. It's a mage. It's a lightning element mage. Ah, why do I feel my entire body turning numb? A surprised voice was heard from within the bus. The older auntie who finished her round of shopping, the old man who finished exercising, the young girl who was playing on her phone with her head lowered. as well as the pervert who was molesting the girl with the phone, were all stunned as they saw Ed Mo Fan at the back of the bus. Great mage, too. I promise I won't do this again. I beg of you, please spare me. I have eyes but couldn't see MMT. Tai! Suddenly, the middle-aged man who was molesting the young girl yelled out as he kneeled down, his face covered in tears as he begged for forgiveness from Mo Fan. The middle-aged pervert thought the young mage had seen his own vulgar behavior, enraged him, and caused him to activate his lightning abilities. This lightning force was extremely terrifying. All of the people on the bus were intimidated by the lightning force, causing them to feel numb all over, especially the pervert who molested the young girl. His hands were numb to the point where he couldn't feel anything. I'll spare your dog life. If I catch you doing it again, I'll immediately make you lose the use of your hands. Mo Fan stood up after understanding the situation. His aura was cold as he looked down on the pervert. Yes, I won't do it again, definitely. After saying this, the pervert frantically escaped from the bus as the driver halted. The surrounding aunties and uncles immediately reacted with praise. A few evident middle school girls looked at Mo Fan in admiration. Mom, that older brother is incredible. Am I able to become as unbelievable as him in the future? An 8-year-old child dragged at his mother's skirt and asked faintly. Becoming a mage is not something anyone can do, especially a lightning element mage. Mo Fan realized his magic had caused a huge uproar within the bus. In order to avoid the disturbance, Mo Fan quickly departed. After exiting, Mo Fan's heart was the same as before, unable to calm down. Sheet, that is so freaking cool. Recalling the lightning strike twirling around his arm and the dreadful feeling of being able to easily eliminate a person was unprecedented. It was like a dream. This is magic? This is magic! Mo Fan's heart throbbed incessantly. Even though he didn't activate Lightning Fist, Mo Fan could still feel the might of the lightning force. It came from within his body. He could control it, and it brought a strength he never considered before. The reverence everyone on board of the bus directed at him, the pervert who was kneeling on the floor, begging for forgiveness, and the mysterious lightning force that spiraled around his fist. This really is an inconceivable. Ha! I have learned the lightning strike, and I only needed a semester to do so. I want to see how you guys are going to stand in my way now. Mubai, Zhao Ting, all of them will have to kneel before me. Mo Fan was able to control Lightning Fist in just a semester. The fact is, the school gave the students 1 year to complete this ability. From the beginning of the school year to the end of the semester, Mo Fan had only used 5 months' worth of his available time. If this speed was known publicly, then his classmates and teacher, or even the students and teachers of the entire school, would be completely dumbstruck. It seemed like the student who was favored by the magical beast teacher, Zhang Jiangguo, had reached the control of 4 stars not too long ago. Mubai was at the same level as him. Ha! This daddy has already activated Lightning Fist. How can you, Mubai, a green tea man, compete against me? I can feel the power of the lightning force being released from its spiral around my arm. I wonder what it'd be like if I were to truly release it. Just thinking about it makes me want to yell out in excitement. Deep breath, deep breath. I look like an idiot if I laugh in the middle of the road. I need to be calm. I am an incredible mage. Mo Fan actually wanted to use Lightning Strike one more time, but after he had finished the Lightning Strike earlier, his body began to feel empty and dizzy. This is probably the spiritual exhaustion that the teacher mentioned, right? Mo Fan asked himself. Generally speaking, Mo Fan could maintain 2 hours of practicing control. He would only feel spiritual exhaustion after 2 hours. He had only practiced control for 20 minutes when he was on the bus. However, in the moment he completed Lightning Strike, he felt his spiritual force being completely drained. Mo Fan still understood this point. While he was practicing control, he wouldn't complete the star path. Normally speaking, that wouldn't use too much mana. However, if he completed the star path and channeled the star force into his body, thus achieving the true effect of magic, then the majority of the mana would be gone. I've never been a mage before, but I've played all sorts of games like League of Legends or The Legend of Mir. They all follow the same logic. Fan was in a mood while humming Little Apple as he walked toward Mingwen Middle School. Mingwen Middle School was a private all-girls school. The most delicate and fashionable girls were assembled there. The difference between this and other schools was this school doesn't use the dull magic theory education, and they definitely didn't have fools who only knew how to write exams in magic books. These girls came from families with magic backgrounds, thus they naturally knew more than the magic students who had to go through 9 years of compulsory magic education. For an instance, some of them would frequently wear a magic tool ornament around their chest. This magic second generation has been wearing magical tools that enhance their spiritual force since the day they were born. Compared to these people, Mo Fan was just a peasant who has to climb his way up, step by step. The small roads around the school were filled with luxurious vehicles as it was just in time for the end of school. Mo Fan was very clear about Xingxia's character. She would definitely go around the girls with limousines and go along the small road in the alley. As she smelled the fragrance of the small bamboo by the window, which was planted by the residents, Mo Fan walked around the main entrance as he planned to wait for the little sister Ye Xinxia by the end of the road in the alley. There weren't many people who would use the road in the alley. Mo Fan passed through other people's courtyards as he entered the familiar road. Although the world has changed, the city with which he was so familiar hadn't changed, neither had the bamboo by the window. Thinking about it, Ye Xinxia shouldn't have changed either. Mo Fan stood in the middle of the alley with his back leaning onto a wall. He looked like a gangster waiting for an opportunity to extort arcade tokens from primary students. He would occasionally raise his eyes to look at the entrance of the alley, hoping to surprise the girl who was about to come over. Who would have thought that the beautiful silhouette would not appear for half the day? How come she's not coming? The pose in which Mo Fan was standing made him feel numb. As he slightly closed his eyes, Mo Fan was practically about to enter meditation out of habit. Suddenly, Mo Fan heard a noise coming from the entrance of the alley in the direction of the small hill. Usually, these noises and clamors would be deafened by the high walls of the alley. For some reason, these noises ended up in his ears. Could it be the side effects of meditation has increased perception? Mo Fan began walking toward the direction of the small hill in curiosity. As he walked in the direction of the small hill, it became clear all of a sudden. The front side, at the foot of the hill, was roughly a kilometer away from the house that Mo Fan's family recently sold. Down the hill was a small lawn that looked like a small park. Near an air vent was a swing made of twisted vines. The swing was standing still, without the slightest bit of movement. Sitting on top of the swing was a girl with long black hair. The winter wind messed her hair, revealing a silky white and delicate face. She had long eyelashes, exquisite nose, and lips glossy like jade. She attentively looked forward in silence. It was as though she perfectly blended in as a portrait with the winter swings and delicate lotus. Cold and lovely, yet alone as her unique temperament blossomed. Mo Fan's steps halted suddenly, without realizing when he started to enjoy looking at her like this. Seeing her sitting caused a warm current to surge within Mo Fan, flowing down the deepest part of his heart. At which point, he couldn't help but allow the corner of his mouth to curve. However, in this moment, Mo Fan felt something wasn't right. His eyebrows immediately creased as he walked toward the elegant girl sitting on the swing. The girl also felt someone walking over, however. As she saw it was Mo Fan, her face didn't appear surprised at all. She only gently laughed, as though she knew this person would be coming, and she was here waiting for him. "Big brother Mo Fan," the girl called out with a sweet voice. "It's that crap again, isn't it?" As Mo Fan walked over, a faint anger crept up his face. Xinxia didn't say anything. "Today, I will definitely deal with them. They're a group of degenerates." Mo Fan's anger multiplied and he gazed at the staircase on the hill. "There's a lot of them. Forget it." Xinxia shook her head, advising Mo Fan to drop his anger. "It's not possible to forget about it. I'm going to deal with these dregs." Mo Fan said no more and followed the staircase up. Xinxia, who was sitting on the swing, wanted to pull Mo Fan away, but Mo Fan was already climbing up the mountain, seething in anger. Xinxia was familiar with Mo Fan's temper. He has always fought the neighborhood bullies and ruffians for reasons related to her. He would fight against multiple people every time and return with wounds all over his body. This was something she wants to see the least. The ones bothering her this time weren't some small ruffian or bullies. It was clear these people had long ago dropped out of school. The people who messed around in this area were known as the Azure Bear Gang. They were for hire to the wealthy girls living around here. Whoever they didn't like, they'd step on them. There were at least 5 people over there, and 2 of them had very sturdy bodies. Their bodies were several times bigger than Mo Fan's. If Mo Fan were to go up there to find them, he would definitely be beaten badly. On the pavilion, on the hill. "Shu Bing, don't you think we lack elegance if we do it like this?" a youth said with a cigarette hanging from his mouth and poker cards in his hands. "How are we lacking elegance? This is my 16th time expressing my sincere feelings to her, allowing her to become my girlfriend. Look, can't I sit here on the pavilion playing cards as she considers this?" The young man called Shu Bing responded. On Shu Bing's neck was a clear azure-colored tattoo, and due to his short jacket that covered half of the tattoo on his neck, it seemed extremely eye-catching. You could tell with a single glance that he was a character that was hard to provoke. Yeah, if she wants to reject you, she would have walked away already. King Flash. Ha 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 ha. "Give me the money, double up." Sitting on the other side, a young man wearing a cowboy hat with a hole said, "Damn this bullshit luck of yours. One more round, one more round. We'll play till the sky turns dark. I don't believe the girl won't panic." Shu Bing narrowed his eyes, enjoying the position of someone on top. Towards girls, one had to be unyielding. A girl's natural disposition was to be shy. If one isn't a bit unyielding, then one would not be able to do anything. This girl Shinxia was becoming prettier with time. Seeing her really made one excited. There's actually someone who would say that I'm like a toad who wants to eat the meat of a swan. Today I will claim this girl, and then see who would dare to say anything. "Oh right, I remember this little girl still has a brother. That's annoying." The young man in cowboy adornments commented. "His battle prowess is lacking. Other than having an unyielding character, he is just a meatbag. You can beat him up however you want," Shu Bing said without caring much. "That's right. Before, I would be enough to deal with him. Now I've gained some muscle, I'd like to try beating that thing up. Speaking of which, Shu Bing, aren't your preferences a bit too much?" This girl does indeed look good, however. Being able to do that is a bit hard to say. I think so too. In this all-girls school, there are numerous of pretty girls. The people are dumb, but they have money. Just threaten them a bit and they'll cave in. Why would you go through so much trouble for just this one girl? What do you know? It is called having good taste. Shu Bing viciously glared at the group of people. While he was starting to feel dissatisfied with the terrible taste of this group of boys, Shu Bing raised his head and saw a young man wearing a black t-shirt walking toward the pavilion with a cold aura surrounding him. Eh? This guy seems familiar. Crap, speak of the devil, isn't this the brother next door to the girl? This guy. I've been wanting to deal with him for the longest time for obstructing me from trying to hit on this girl. Who would have thought that you'd come to me by yourself? It just happens that there are quite a few of my brothers here today. We'll just let you have a taste of getting beaten, and we'll see if you dare to stand up again in the future. Brothers, grab your weapons. Shu Bing stood, his gaze interlocked with Mo Fan's cold eyes. The man with cowboy adornment, the young man with a cigarette hanging from his mouth, the man with the headphones, and the man wearing the jacket immediately stood up as they all looked to their side. Bro, we didn't bring weapons. The cigarette man moved closer to Shu Bing's ear as he faintly whispered. What the heck? Do you need weapons to deal with this thing? Beat him up real good. Per the instruction of Brother Zhao Kun-san, if we beat him up, then it's on him. Shu Bing slapped the talkative brothers on their forehead with his palm as he responded enraged. The man with the cigarette felt wronged. You were the one who said to grab the weapons. It seems like it's just a wordplay. Since it's something Brother Zhao Kun-san has instructed before. The man with the jacket removed his jacket as he chuckled, revealing his white tank top and bustling muscles. Mo Fan looked attentively at the 5 trash from Azure Bear Gang with a gaze that felt as though he was looking at a domesticated animal. Kid, let's put it like this. My interest in a girl like your sister is practically the luckiest thing in her life. Do you think anyone else is like me, Shu Bing, who doesn't care that she's adorable? There's no reason for a cripple to act like a goddess. If there's anyone who wants her, then you should burn the money and thank Buddha. Shu Bing pointed at Mo Fan as he revealed his true intentions. Shu Bing's patience had run out after all these years. Look at me, Shu Bing. I have the looks and the strength. Within the Guangxi district, he was quite the character. If Yi Xingjia were to follow me, she would be able to live well whether she has it good or bad, and she'd always have minions at her service. The point is, learn to appreciate favors. Now, obediently call me brother-in-law. Seeing how we're going to be a family, we will be gentle with you. This way, we can tell Zhao Kun-san and Mubai we beat you up. If you're still resisting, then we'll break your legs so you can be a cripple along with your sister, the muscular man with a white tank top commanded. After hearing this, Mo Fan's chest began heaving violently. He glanced at the pavilion. In the middle of the pavilion, there was a lone wheelchair with poker cards on top of the seat. Originally, Mo Fan was extremely angry from seeing these dregs using Yi Xinxia's wheelchair as a table for playing poker. However, now that he had heard these humiliating insults from Xu Bing, Mo Fan felt as though his chest was about to explode. A cripple? A cripple? I, Mo Fan, have pledged a vow. If someone were to ever say this kind of stuff to Yi Xinxia, then I will make sure they will regret being reincarnated as a human. Stop wasting time with this kid, go beat him up. I alone am enough to deal with him, brothers. You just stand to the side and watch. The muscular man in white tank top began cracking his fist. Mo Fan looked at them with extremely icy eyes. However, as they were messing around here, they didn't notice one thing. He was forging a vicious purple-colored lightning path within his eyes. The star path contained a tremendous lightning force that was about to erupt like a volcano under Mo Fan's rage. Do you really think I'm still the same Mo Fan who you can take advantage of? A restless force began to tremble in the atmosphere around Mo Fan. It was like fully armed soldiers who were waiting for the commands from their general. You, who isn't even on the same level as a domesticated animal, are just in time to taste the flavor of lightning. The moment the angry voice transmitted from his throat, the 7 stars formed and became a star path, causing the power from the lightning star dust to gather within Mo Fan's right arm. Bizidi, an astonishing arc of lightning sparked across Mo Fan's body like a python. In the next second, the restless lightning in the atmosphere began to assemble within Mo Fan's right arm, emitting an ear-piercing noise. Heavens, what is that? Why is there lightning crackling around his body? This kid, heavens, he's a mage among these people. Xu Bing was the one who had seen the most of the outside world. Mage was said in certainty. This group was certainly famous ruffians within the Guangxi district, and yet, ruffians still relied on punches and kicks. In front of a real magician, they weren't even enough to be called dregs. How could he be a mage? Xu Bing and the group of people were exceedingly scared by the incredibly shocking scene in front of them. In their perspective, if one could leave a mark after punching a tree, then one would have an incredible existence within the ruffians. However, they have never met someone whose body was enshrouded by a crackling lightning arcs. Everything within the circumference of a few meters looked just like a destroyed high-voltage area. Incorporeal power pressured them, causing their entire bodies to feel numb. Lightning force, lightning strike. All the invocations were complete. This time, Mo Fan was genuinely using the primary rank skill, lightning strike. He suddenly raised his arm with his palm, facing the sky. All the trembling lightning arcs in the surroundings emitted a sharp sound. They were just like a group of elemental warriors in a purple-colored armor who had just received a command as they suddenly unsheathed their weapons. Annihilate them. With the unfathomable rage, Mo Fan relied on a feeling to control the lightning force that heeded his commands. He ferociously gripped his fist. An arc-like lightning element emerged and shot toward Xu Bing, who was standing at the very front, as well as towards the muscular man's location. The lightning arc came forth from the high altitude. Every strike was like a whip filled with immense power, whipping Xu Bing and the muscular man to the floor, while at the same time it left behind strands of marks as it continued to whip them on the floor. Xu Bing, as well as the muscular man, was beaten down to the floor. Just a while ago they were still putting on airs, but now in the moment the lightning strike fell on them, flesh lacerated from their back, skin burning to a crisp. They wanted to scream out in pain, but not a sound came from them. The lightning strike's strands of power were like small pythons scurrying around their body. Every time it scurried, one could see Xu Bing and the muscular man twitch in pain. Pudong! After feeling this dreadful power, the man with the cigarette was so frightened that he began to kneel on the floor. His body unconsciously began to tremble. The man in the cowboy adornment was completely dumbstruck. It was as though he was turned into a statue. Although the man with headphones was just standing there, without getting hit by the lightning strike, his jeans were completely soaked. It even started dripping down on his shoes. In the pavilion, on the hill, there was an unimaginable purple energy flashing magnificently before it quickly disappeared into nothing. There was a scorched smell pervading the air. There was even some charring on the plants in the surroundings. There were two people laying on the ground. They were acutely twitching. Their appearances were too horrible to look at. The insufferably arrogant attitude of the Guangxi district's ruffians was nowhere to be seen. The other three people were thoroughly scared. Big.mmo.ig brother mofan.seeing.ing as how we grew up in the same D district. Could you spare us? We will never do this again. The man with the cigarette had been so scared that his soul had dispersed. In his eyes, the 16-year-old youth in front of him was even scarier than the demons in his nightmares. You are an honorable MMH. You don't need to lower yourself to the same level as dregs like us. I beg of you, don't do anything to us, the man in cowboy adornment said with a trembling voice. Seeing the appearances of Xu Bing and the muscular man, it was just too terrifying. The man in cowboy adornments didn't want to become like them. The whiff of rage accompanied with the completely released lightning strike was slowly settling down to the bottom of Mo Fan's heart. He looked at the miserable Xu Bing and the muscular man and glanced at the other three people who were completely terrified. Take them to the hospital, Mo Fan said as he calmed down. The truth was even Mo Fan couldn't imagine that the primary rank skill of lightning strike, would have a might that immense. This was my first time actually activating it. If I can become even more proficient at it and be able to increase my accuracy in controlling it, I won't waste a single bit of that scattered energy during the activation. I'm afraid the perfected lightning strike would directly cause the 5 people to die from the explosion. So far, so good, however. There were no casualties out of this, or else things would become complicated. Yes, we'll go now. The cowboy looked at this young mage's rage settling down. He acted as if he obtained a new life. The other two didn't dare to think too much about it. They hurriedly supported the 2 paralyzed people on the ground. The result was, as soon as they touched the 2 men, the remaining lightning arcs transmitted into their arms from the bodies, causing them to tremble in fear. Call an ambulance. You'll handle the medical fees yourselves, Mo Fan said indifferently. I'll call them now. Mo Fan's rage had already dispersed. In fact, his mind still had some enthusiasm which was hard to conceal. Right now, Mo Fan was like a god-killing existence for them. How could he display his extremely joyful appearance to these fools? After walking to the inside of the pavilion, Mo Fan swept away the cards from the wheelchair. He picked up the wheelchair and followed the stairs back down. These 3 people were still looking at Mo Fan with fear lingering in their hearts. Suddenly, Mo Fan spun around. The 3 people were scared and hastily took a step back. Oh right, if someone were to ask, tell them that these 2 tried to steal electricity. If you dare to spread the matter of me being a mage, I'll have you shut up forever. Either way, I heard the police won't make it difficult for a mage who accidentally kills someone, especially the dregs of society who provoked a mage. Mo Fan thought of it and turned around to warn these people. The 3 people nodded their head as though they were pounding garlic. They couldn't be more obedient. Regarding Zhao Kun-san and Mu Bai, with your IQ, I believe you know what to say, right? Mo Fan said as he left in a carefree manner. We didn't see you. You're smart. I'll think of the matter as done this time. If there's anything in the future, you can come and find me. You've seen my abilities already. Yes. Big brother Mo Fan, take care. The 3 bent over as they nodded their head with fear and reverence. Mo Fan nodded as he picked up the wheelchair and left. First, you need to ruthlessly beat them up. Then you give them a little bit of benefit. Mo Fan believed these lads wouldn't dare be rash and believed they wouldn't spread the word of this matter to the outside. On one side, he has become a lightning element magician that was able to activate his skills. On the other side, it was the apprentice-level Mu Bai. I believe these guys understand how to stand for themselves. However, Mo Fan was already clear on the fact that these 5 people were just lackeys for Mu Bai and Zhao Kun-san. When the time comes, I'll still pay those 2 bastards back what they deserve. Following the stone steps downwards, Mo Fan finally couldn't help but to laugh out loud. A few years ago, he was just a normal student in a classroom who would occasionally look at the world outside of the window, due to the dullness from the history class. Occasionally, he would also daydream about suddenly being faced with a gust of wind and flying upwards, his foot lightly treading on the flagpole, soaring through the blue sky and the distant back mountain of the school. He imagined encountering a brute that could cause himself to be thoroughly enraged. When he met fiends and numerous villains, his hands were able to congregate a special force that could directly defeat them. Who would have thought that he was able to have a small taste of this today? With the lightning force in his hands, the 5 ruffians who used to bully him became like stray dogs. This has never happened before, and the feeling was fantastic. It was like a dream. Lightning element, lightning strike is indeed impressive. I wonder what kind of power the fire element's primary rank skill, Flame Burst, holds. There's still half a year before the annual magic examination. I should have enough time to grasp the fire element's primary rank skill, Fire Burst. Mo Fan got excited. The lightning element's primary rank skill, Lightning Strike, was indeed ferocious. I wonder how the other element's skills are. Moreover, Mo Fan knew that the primary rank skills are the lowest type of magic. After the primary, there's also intermediate and high rank. Right. The wind element teacher did mention it during the first class. The wind element's high rank skill, Wind Wings, gives you the ability to soar through the sky. Damn, if I'm able to learn Wind Wings, then I'd be able to go anywhere. After a long while, Mo Fan was still having difficulties holding down his excitement. His mind was incessantly processing the magic knowledge he learned. He wanted to know what other heaven-defying skills the mages could be in possession of. On the still swing was the long-haired, perfectly straight-nosed young girl with her head slightly turned upwards. She was carefully observing the pavilion whose view was blocked by trees. The purple ray just now, Yashinxia murmured to herself. She saw a magnificent purple-colored light like a remnant of a shooting star flashing by the pavilion. Although it quickly dissipated, it was still an astonishing scene that left a mark in people's heart. Is it a mage? Yashinxia thought to herself. She had a really hard time imagining that there'd be a mage in a city area this small. However, why would a mage appear in the same location as Mo Fan and the group of ruffians, and they even use genuine magic? Is Big Brother Mo Fan all right? At this moment, Yashinxia was feeling nervous. She subconsciously bit the side of her lip. At last, the familiar figure appeared on the small stone staircase. He was carrying her wheelchair, and his face had a trace of a silly smile. As long as there's no trouble, then it's fine. Yashinxia's heart finally settled down. Xingxia, I have already dealt with those people. They won't bother you anymore. Mo Fan placed the wheelchair in front of Yashinxia. I saw lightning. It seems to be the primary rank skill of lightning element, Lightning Strike, Yashinxia said. As Mo Fan heard this, he began to feel a sense of pride. However, he smiled without saying a word. He used his broken eyes to look at Yashinxia. Yashinxia felt something wasn't right. She carefully thought about it before astonishment flashed in her eyes. The one activating Lightning Strike was Big Brother Mo Fan? Mo Fan didn't admit to it, he just stood there with a smile. It really was you. Big Brother Mo Fan is a mage, Yashinxia said with a hint of disbelief. Haha, you are the first person to witness my true power, Mo Fan said suddenly with a headstrong tone in before Yashinxia's delicate and cute face. Yashinxia didn't anticipate this sneak attack. Her red flush immediately filled her cheeks. It even reached down to her neck. Only then did Mo Fan realize that he was being a bit too relaxed. He hastily began to explain, I'm sorry, I got a bit too excited. Yashinxia replied with a low voice, Then, did you really become a mage? Mo Fan nodded. Our teacher said only 1 out of 1,000 can awaken lightning element. The primary level of lightning element holds a great advantage. So much of it can be said to be the best primary ranked element. In this moment, Yashinxia began to feel happy for Mo Fan. Yashinxia was clear on the situation at home, even more so after she became a member of the family and gave Uncle Mo Jaxing more unnecessary pressure. According to Auntie, Uncle Mo Jaxing had already sold their house. It seems as if their poverty had reached a definite point. Both her and Mo Fan were still young. It's difficult for them to help Mo Jaxing. What Mo Fan could do was study hard and become a genuine mage. Only then would they be able to relieve the current family crisis. It seems like Big Brother Mo Fan was indeed amazing. He had unexpectedly learned magic in such a short period of time. And that's not right. Suddenly Yi Xinxia came to a realization. She looked at Mo Fan with her beautiful eyes, which hinted that she wanted to say something. Mo Fan replied in earnest, "What's wrong? It hasn't even been half a year since you awakened. According to what is known, even people who have a high innate talent require nearly a year to completely activate the primary rank skills," Ye Xinxia said. Mo Fan was dumbstruck. No way, even people with a high innate talent need nearly a year's worth of time to go from awakening to activation? Then, me being able to completely use the primary skills after half a year is indeed a bit too quick. The thing was, Mo Fan didn't know anything about this. That blockhead Mubai was already able to grasp 4 or 5 stars. From how he saw it, wasn't it normal that he himself could already activate magic? However, why did Ye Xinxia's surprised face give off the feeling as if she was looking at a monster? Could it be that being able to learn the primary rank skill within half a year was an extremely abnormal thing in this world? The possess a high innate talent in even someone that possess high innate talent needs a year. What kind of level does that speak of? Mo Fan cautiously asked. Mo Fan didn't want to expose the fact that he knew almost nothing about this world. Mu Ningxu is considered the most talented person within our Bo city. Her talent even surpasses numerous genius-level students in the empire. However, she needed 8 months to go from the awakening to learning the ice element's primary skill. Ye Xinxia said. 8 months? Mo Fan felt a bit stunned when he heard this. What kind of existence was Mu Ningxu? She was the only person who was directly recruited by the Empire Institution in the entirety of Bo City. She's also the most beloved person of the entire Mu clan. She had received the entire Mu clan's inherited magic training methods. The kind of resources which a common mage would never receive in their entire life. The reason behind her being viewed as an important figure, as well as her astonishing magic talent, was closely related to that. Even an extremely arrogant person like her needed 8 months to go from awakening to the activation of primary magic. What about Mo Fan, who only needed 5 months? Holy crap! Holy crap! Mo Fan felt his heart viciously surging. If Mu Ningxu shocked the world with 8 months and was classified as a heavenly genius by the people, wouldn't his own 5 months be completely heaven-defying? Big Brother Mo Fan, did you learn something bad? I heard from an old scholar that this kind of cultivation speed is only possible with people from the Black Church, Ye Xinxia whispered. The Black Church had some demonic magic method that could substantially raise a mage's cultivation speed. Ye Xinxia really couldn't think of any other way that could allow someone to complete primary magic in just a short 5 months, even though Ye Xinxia knew her Big Brother Mo Fan's intelligence surpasses others. The Black Church? How is that possible? Is that so? Oh, right, I actually didn't awaken on the day of opening ceremony. I got to know an old man way before that. He told me, "Kid, I see that your bones are unusually good. Your talent exceeds others. Why don't you let me teach you magic?" And at that time, I asked who he was. He told me he was a member of the Magic City's Magic Association. He could help me awaken in advance. In short, I actually didn't learn magic in 5 months. Mo Fan reacted by quickly explaining this. As Ye Xinxia listened to his explanation, she became confused. However, she still replied with a big smile. "Oh, so you actually awakened in advance." Awakening too early would cause side effects to the cultivation. However, if it's the people from the Magic Association, then there shouldn't be any large issues. As Mo Fan saw that Ye Xinxia no longer asked any questions, he finally sighed in relief. I really am a monster. It seems like I shouldn't reveal too many things before I completely understand this world. Is it true, it's only those from the Black Church that can finish their cultivation in 5 months? Mo Fan asked faintly. Yes. Ye Xinxia nodded in sincerity. Mo Fan felt cold sweat. Being too amazing wasn't a good thing. Originally, Mo Fan wanted to surprise Ye Xinxia with the fact that he also possessed the fire element, however. Now it seemed like it would be better to not be reckless while he still hadn't understood the circumstances. I should go back and consult the books first and fully understand the situation just to have some warranty. If not, I'll be branded as someone from the Black Church and then be dealt with. After taking Ye Xingxia back to her aunt's place and having dinner with them, Mo Fan wanted to continue practicing the lightning element magic. However, when he began to do his usual practice on control, he began to feel a headache, so bad it was as though his head was splitting apart. It was the kind of feeling that was like playing League of Legends for 3 days straight without sleep in an internet cafe. It was as though his entire being was about to drop dead. What kind of situation is this? It's the feeling of having a low spirit. Is it because I used lightning strike twice today? Is it due to lightning element's magic being excessively used that lead to me feeling spiritually fatigued? Is there a mistake? If we count in the time in the bus where I didn't completely activate it, then I've only used lightning strike twice today, and that caused my damn mana to be completely drained? Originally, I thought spending 5 months worth of time to meditate would cause the magic capacity within my stardust to be tremendous. Who would have thought that using lightning strike twice would cause the entire lightning element stardust to feel completely dismal? The lightning element stardust used to be gorgeous and colorful within the spiritual world. The purple radiance reflected by the 7 stars were like a beautiful painting of the starry sky. However, right now, the stardust lost its radiance as it sunk into the darkness. At first, Mo Fan was slightly scared. Fortunately, after he loosened up and started to rest, the lightning stardust began to slowly recover its radiance, although very slowly. It seems like the stardust isn't bright enough. Every time I use magic, the stardust will lose a bit of its radiance. When the stardust is completely dark, it means the energy within it has been completely used up. The stardust contains magic energy. No wonder why the homeroom teacher, Xu Musheng, would stress all day, saying, even if it's boring, you still need to maintain meditation. If a talented mage doesn't diligently meditate, they could become mediocre. These words could basically mean, so what if your skill is incredible? If you don't have the mana, then you're just a dreg. Forget it. Let's not think about this. I should hurry up and sleep or else I'll really pass out. As he was holing up in his room, he slept until dawn. Ye Xingxia was lovable. It was almost noon, yet she didn't wake him up. Mo Fan got out of his bed feeling energetic. He easily entered a meditative state and scanned his own stardust. He discovered that most of the stardust was shining brightly. It'd probably completely recover its former radiance very soon. Oh, right. I shouldn't reveal my lightning element to outsiders. Although this is a society governed by law, it could still cause people to be jealous. An example would be the Mu family, which is capable of covering the heavens with the point of a finger. It seems like I still need to cultivate the fire element. This way it'd be easier to fool other people. Mo Fan brushed his teeth as he pondered over this question. However, I only have so much energy in a single day. How can I cultivate the lightning element while I cultivate the fire element as well? The reason as to why Mo Fan was able to activate the lightning element skill in just a mere 5 months was because he spent all of his cultivation time on the lightning element. No matter how fascinating and charming the fire element was, Mo Fan still remained single-minded toward the lightning element. The annual magic examination is in roughly half a year. If I don't want to reveal the lightning element's power this early, then I ought to concentrate all of my attention on cultivating the fire element in the next school semester and reach the point where I can activate the primary skill of fire element. Although, if I were to do this, then that'd mean the progress of lightning element would be at a standstill for half a year. I need to meditate. The stardust won't become stronger without a reason. Mo Fan made a few adjustments to his meditation schedule. There was a bit more than 6 months left before the annual magic examination. Mo Fan planned to distribute 10 hours of what he could handle every day, 8 hours on cultivating the fire element, and 2 hours to gently grow the lightning element. This way, the lightning element's growth may be very slow, but it will at least maintain his proficiency in control. Spending 8 hours every day to cultivate the fire element was already much greater compared to students who were only capable of meditating for 5 hours. His aunt, Mo Qing, came back home from work during lunch. Aunt Mo Qing is the most normal woman ever. She's thin with a yellow face, and she was a very good person. Mo Fan, you're back. I've heard from your dad that you're fully concentrating on cultivating at Tianlan Magic High. You must really do your best. If you are able to become a primary mage, then you'd bring honor to the ancestors of our Mo family, Mo Qing said. A primary mage, and I'd be bringing honor to the ancestors? How many generations have we been poor? Sigh. I don't know if I am ready. Where's your husband? Why haven't I seen him around? Mo Fan asked. He's delivering goods to the hunters in the mountains. I really don't understand how a normal person like him could possibly have the courage to go into the mountains. If he were to encounter a magical beast, it could swallow him in one gulp, Mo Ching complained. Aren't the magical beasts in the primitive mountains quite a distance from our city? Mo Fan said. This world was different from the world he was familiar with. Outside of the city, in the magic world, resided numerous magical beasts that threatened the lives of humankind. Not even to mention, common people were afraid of setting food in those areas. Even magicians tended to lose their lives out there. Haven't you seen the warning issued by the Hunters Union? Recently, the magical beasts have gotten restless. There have many been signs of magical beasts emerging outside of our Bo city. Thus, they have especially been warning the normal folks to not take a step outside of the safety zones. Mo Ching said. Isn't that a bit too much? Mo Fan said with a smile. Although Mo Fan was new to this, he still read a lot of books. The magical beasts are generally far away from the cities where humans reside. Moreover, there were renowned organizations like the Magic Association, Hunters Union, and large magic families who cleaned up on a regular basis to ensure the safety of the people within the city. You've studied so much that you've become dumb. Think about it. Which mayor doesn't want their city to prosper in peace? Even if magical beasts were to invade, they would still say the situation is under their control in order to avert panic. The truth is, there have always been magical beasts in the vicinity of the city. There are even some within the city. It's just we, the common people, don't really see them, Mo Ching whispered. Mo Fan was surprised as he heard this, but he still said with a forced smile, Aunt, you're too paranoid. Little boy, you still won't believe me. Then, let me tell you something that actually happened. This happened. Don't say that your aunt loves listening to gossip all day. You should know that I work in the hospital's logistics department. Uh-huh, Mo Fan nodded. Fortunately, Mo Ching didn't say she was working at some sacred institution, or else Mo Fan's balls would really hurt as he wouldn't know anything. There was an evening where I went to deliver medicine for wounds to the doctor in charge. However, there was a person in the operation room who seemed to be a healing element mage. He chewed out our Dr. Wang, saying, even if you are a healing element apprentice, you shouldn't be so stupid to not know how to differentiate poison marsh and poison water. Also, these people are under a demonic spell, which is why they look lifeless. Go, go, go. Don't be a burden here. Go find the people from the Hunters Union and have them find the evil-eyed marsh beast, or else there'll be more injured people in this area. Mo Ching moved closer. She spoke with a very cautious tone to Mo Fan. As Mo Fan saw Mo Ching's expression, he didn't feel like she was making things up. Don't tell me the magical beasts are actually so close to the city, with some being within the city. This is quite scary. Magical beasts were monsters that eat people. If you were to come across one, then death would certainly be imminent. Will your husband be okay seeing as how he went into the mountains? Mo Fan asked. Who would have known that there'd be light-colored warnings outside of the city? It indicates that the residents shouldn't carelessly wander deep into the mountains. He kept saying that the hunter squad lost some supplies while they were following the tracks of a one-eyed magical wolf, and that he had to personally deliver it. He's just a logistics employee, yet he even has the guts to do this kind of life-threatening work. Your dad, no matter what I told him, still wouldn't listen, Mo Ching answered. My dad went as well? Mo Fan's face immediately changed. Yeah, they said it would pay a lot. Even mage apprentices are too afraid to receive their call, yet these two normal people, if nothing happens, then that's fine. However, if something really were to happen, what'll happen to us? Mo Ching said. Auntie, don't worry. They must have considered this already. There won't be any problems. They're just delivering it to a designated outpost, and the roads from the city to the outpost are still within the safe zone, Yixingxia said from the side. Either way, I just wish the two would just obediently do their job within the city. I get worried when they leave the city, Mo Ching whispered once again. After hearing Mo Ching's complaints, Mo Fan began to have a bad feeling. Father hasn't come to my school to see me for the past 6 months. It turns out he picked a different road. He went to deliver goods to the hunter magicians patrolling outside. This job is indeed very dangerous compared to his former job, where he'd only deliver goods to wealthy people. Although it's winter break, Mo Fan wasn't free at all. After staying at Auntie's place for a few days, Mo Fan returned to Tianlan Magic High's library. The library had the information he needed to replenish, for example, the Black Church, which he missed out on. Mo Fan understood what kind of thing the Black Church was after reading about it. Those guys are similar to the terror organizations, a large evil cult. They frequently did things that would harm the safety of the people. Additionally, for the sake of their own goals, they would even use living people as cultivation material. The country was not lenient on insane things like that. Naturally, in the coming month, Mo Fan wholeheartedly meditated. After knowing the lightning element stardust would dry up and turn completely dark after only using lightning strike twice, Mo Fan began to understand the importance of meditation. Thus, this entire month, despite how great the temptation of activating fire element skill, Fire Burst, Mo Fan didn't rashly try to come in contact with Fire Element's star. He must solidify his foundation first. As he was engrossed in meditation and treated all of this as a habit, the time passed very quickly. Soon enough, it became the start of the school again. Inside the library, Mo Fan swept off the cobwebs that covered his body, ready to meet the new magic school term. In a high spirit, Mo Fan walked into the classroom and sat down in a seat at the very back, just like always. There's something wrong today. Mo Fan looked at Zhang Xiaoho next to him and discovered this lad didn't look all right. Normally, this guy's expression would be just like a curious little monkey, a clever one. Moreover, he would incessantly tell Mo Fan about his past few days during class. Today, however, his eyes looked dull, his mouth was slightly open, and his face was filled with an unfathomable, intoxicated gaze as he looked toward the front. As he looked around his surroundings, the two study wrecks, Xu Qinglin and Lu Xiaobing, were showing the same expression. It was as though they were being possessed. Sheet, don't tell me what Auntie said really is true. There is a one-eyed magical wolf within the city and these lads have all been infected by it. Good morning, class. The teacher for your practical magic class has fallen ill and is currently at home recuperating. From today on, I will be in charge of everyone's practical magic classes. My name is Tang Yu. A mature, beautiful, and bright sound resounded. After being accustomed to the hoarse and slow voice of an old man, the sudden appearance of a mature woman's voice with a charming and the sexy tune swept past like the spring wind brushing the grounds. This caused the slightly tired Mo Fan to immediately wake up. He raised his head as he searched for the origins of the voice with expectation. Mo Fan's eyes were starstruck, and his expression appeared enchanted. What the hell? Who cares about the evil-eyed marsh monster that can confuse people's hearts? It's evident that the souls of the males with the exuberant hormones were attracted by this newly arrived, extraordinarily beautiful female teacher. This teacher, Tang Yu, wore a standard black suit. In between the outer black suit and the white shirt on the inside were a bulging, majestic, and glamorous mountain peaks that were about to burst. This made Mo Fan wonder whether the little buttons on the chest was really capable of holding up this turbulent wave. Annoying. This really is annoying. The early morning has always been the time where the young men are at their most violent. As they were stimulated like this, I reckon the majority will have a rather shameful appearance. It's been half a year since you awakened, and there's not a single person who has been able to use their magic. However, I hope you understand that being able to control an immense power does not signify that you know how to use it. If you don't properly control your powers, then they'll backfire on you. Mrs. Tang Yu quickly entered her teaching state. Originally, the teacher's earnest and solemn attitude caused many little tyrants to come back to their senses. Who would have known that the second she turned around after writing some important segments on the blackboard, the entire class would get nosebleeds? What a disaster. Bulging and round, Mo Fan was definitely a normal male student. At this moment, the exact same scene came to his head. Ahem. How could one let one's imagination run wild in a sacred school? Either way, Mo Fan wholeheartedly wanted to study. Mo Fan was definitely not the same as this group of people who only thought with their lower body. In any case, I definitely won't wear tight pants to the practical magic classes again. Not every organism is capable of being like a climbing tiger, move around the obstacle, and continue what they're doing. The practical magic classes went on for the entire morning. After finishing theory, Tang Yu brought everyone to the field, personally showing everyone the essential keys to magic activation. Mo Fan also earnestly listened to this class. For example, what Mrs. Tang Yu had said concerning the magic activation link, Mo Fan have already experienced it. It's just he didn't understand how the buttons on the front of Mrs. Tang Yu's chests were so durable, it's been so long yet they still hadn't burst. Naturally, the school field isn't supposed to be used for radio calisthenics. The field was actually just the practice grounds. They had been divided into several independent spaces using a magic barrier which Mo Fan didn't understand. All the overflowing power would be absorbed by the transparent barrier. This was to prevent harming the students who didn't have any kind of ability. Look closely, I will demonstrate the primary skill of fire element, fire burst. Tang Yue stood in the middle of the students. The students assembled into a half arc, scattered behind Mrs. Tang Yu. Whether everyone really was watching Mrs. Tang Yu's hand seals was something that no one was sure of. Fire burst, it's the skill of fire element. Brother Mo Fan, wipe your saliva, it's your element skill. Never did I think that Mrs. Tang Yu, who looked so tender and virtuous, would actually be a fire mage. Zhang Xiaoho nudged the Mo Fan beside him. Oh, I want to learn this. Only then did Mo Fan come back to his senses. Currently, Tang Yue maintained an extremely straight posture as she calmly stood there. Her elegant, curvy physique outlined the slightly tight skirt which people felt was particularly moving. Perhaps it was because she was new to teaching. That was why her selection of clothing seemed a bit too hasty, resulting in this. This really gave the students a feast for their eyes. You have to meditate, be tranquil, and concentrate. Even if I am speaking to you right now, my mentality is wholeheartedly concentrated on the fire element nebula within me. Oh, I mean stardust. Mrs. Tang Yu said. Mrs. Tang Yu's voice was transmitted to every student's ears. When everyone thought Mrs. Tang Yu was standing still as a statue, a sudden fluctuation could be seen from her pear blossom hair. There was not a single thread of wind in the field, however. Her hair looked as though she was on a steamer, causing it to scatter around. Control, at this moment you need to call out so your star can obey your commands and open the doors of the fire element magic. Mrs. Tang Yu's tone changed from its usual softness to a solemn one. It carried a hint of an arrogance which stated that everything should burn down before her. In this instant, all the males, with their heads filled with dirty thoughts, immediately became dumbstruck. Their eyes widened as they looked at this beautiful female teacher with shock. Aura. That's right. They felt a scorching aura emitting from Mrs. Tang Yu's body, swelling over everyone's faces. There was shock, reverence, and a certain intimidating presence that prevented people from having any form of wicked thoughts. Everyone initially thought the newly arrived Mrs. Tang Yu would be your average teacher, be able to give everyone a messy theory lesson just like the old guy before her. When it came to them being able to personally activate magic, there might even be a mistake in what she taught. However, the young Tang Yu in front of them seemed to have been able to control this power for a very, very long time. She was able to teach while she controlled the star. After she finished her magic incantations, the emerging fire's intensity was on a completely different level compared to the old man. It was like comparing a small fire to a pillar of flames. Remember, after you finish the arrangement of the stars, you can't relax your thoughts. You must immediately focus on the position of your activation. That dignified voice resounded once more. Searing flames. The sound was like a magical bell, ringing inside everyone's mind. While at the same time, a dazzling scarlet-red star path emerged around Mrs. Tang Yu's body before it quickly condensed within her jade-like right hand. Following this, a fiery red power rapidly grew on her half-gripped hands. It was incomparably violent. With all of her might, she used her arm to throw it. The flame shot out like an arrow and gave off a scarlet-red delicacy. After that, it became like a bullet, accurately and unmistakably penetrating the body of the puppet. Gone. How come nothing happened? It hit the target, though. The atmosphere grew silent for a period of time. The puppet, which was hit by fireburst, didn't have any kind of reaction, while Mrs. Tang Yu's aura was the complete opposite. Within the confusion, Mrs. Tang Yu slowly turned around and faced the entire 48 students of the class with her somewhat young and tender face. However, the corner of her mouth gave off a smirking smile that displayed her high self-confidence. Wee-oo! Suddenly, a shocking scarlet red burst forth from the within of the puppet. It absolutely was not one of those slow ignitions. It was a violent flutter. It looked like something that was able to burn everything in one breath. The intact human-like puppet from just now was engulfed by a scarlet-red flame in just an instant. Was it 1 second or two? The fire everyone knew of usually fluttered about, however. This flame was hungry like a wild beast swallowing food. It hadn't even been 2 seconds before the entire human-shaped puppet was completely engulfed into nothingness. The gaudy scarlet light reflected in Mrs. Tang Yu's beautiful pear blossom hair. Her fair-skinned face was increasingly captivating at the moment. The smile from the corner of her mouth, along with the reckless fire behind her back, enhanced the already stunningly beautiful teacher. There was one way to describe this appearance: unrealistically beautiful. All 48 students of the class were completely starstruck. Mo Fan didn't know how other people felt about this, but he felt his own heart throbbing. Not only because this teacher was beautiful and charming, but when she wore the power of the flames, her body exuded a grandeur confidence. His own blood rose, accompanied by worship, infatuation, and reverence. If a woman is only beautiful, she'll cause men to have a wild imagination. However, this woman had grasped the authority and power which other people were unable to touch upon. This woman was like poison. Men were just unable to free themselves from her. Only the heavens knew how many guys have set Mrs. Tang Yu as their goddess for life after seeing this scene. Even Mo Fan was completely subdued by her temperament. Although they were both teachers in practical magic, the old man's magic activation was lifeless. It caused the people watching to feel drowsy. Mrs. Tang Yu's activation caused people to engrave it onto their hearts, making them feel excited and unable to calm themselves. They were on completely different levels. All right, who are the fire element students in our class? Let me note them down. Mrs. Tang Yu seemed to regard the gazes of worship from students as something normal as she continued to teach her class. I'm a fire element user. A girl whose face carried a heroic spirit took the initiative and stood up. She was Zhu Ming, who gave rise to small disturbances during the opening ceremony. Zhu Ming's eyes were constantly fixated on Mrs. Tang Yu. In fact, Zhu Ming didn't like her in the beginning. How could there be a teacher who would wear clothes that attracted this much attention and possessed a voice so gentle and beautiful? However, after seeing Mrs. Tang Yu finish a flame burst, Zhu Ming's heart did a complete 180, and her heart gave birth to a sense of worship. Zhu Ming's mother was also a teacher. However, she was sure that her own mother was unable to do the same thing as Mrs. Tang Yu, whether it was the aura, intensity, accuracy, or the power. I am one too, Mrs. Tang Yu. I am also a fire element user. My name is Huang Faifeng. The other male student who had awakened the fire element jumped out. Look at this Huang Faifeng's excited expression. Who didn't know that if the practical magic teacher had the same element as you, then it'd be like having a small stove? With the master passing useful things onto their disciples? Huang Faifeng felt extremely lucky. He had unexpectedly become Mrs. Tang Yu's disciple. Who could say if Mrs. Tang Yu would appreciate his talent in the future and give birth to feelings toward him? She was his own little dragon maiden. Don't stand in my way, I'm going to the roof. Why didn't I awaken the fire element? Why? Lu Xiaobing, who awakened the water element, was making loud noises as he cried. Teacher, I am also a fire element user. My name is Zhao Danyu. A little man who stuttered stood up. As his eyes met Mrs. Tang Yu's, his face turned completely red. Mo Fan sighed. You could tell with one glance that it was just an average bean sprout that no one cared for. As Mrs. Tang Yu looked at this little man, she chuckled as she said, "You're clearly very thin and weak. Why did your family name you Big Cow? My body is weak. Father and mother, wish for me to become sturdy like a big cow. Then you should be named Zhao Blabbermouth." Zhao Kun-san, and his clever mouth immediately mocked. What Zhao Kun-san was mocking was naturally Zhao Danyu's stutter. Are there more? Mrs. Tang Yu's gaze swept over. There's only 3 fire element users in a single class? That's too little. Judging by their aura, it seemed like there was only the girl called Zuo Zhumin, whose talent was slightly better, and her cultivation pace was also not bad. There's also me. My name is Mo Fan. Mo Fan came back to his senses and walked out from the crowd of people. Mrs. Tang Yu's perceptive eyes fell on Mo Fan's body. While she was probing Mo Fan's aura, Her lips couldn't help but open up. Mo Fan, you sure have the guts to stand up? A school semester has gone by, yet you haven't been able to control a single fire element star. Your star is still dark, so much so that you can't even see it yet. Don't try to act like you're something, Zhao Kun-san immediately said. There was a test during the end of the last semester. This test was to check the tempo of the students' cultivation. There were definitely no accidents occurring. Mo Fan's stardust wasn't any different from when he first awakened it. The entire class knew this, and that totally did not cause Zhao Kun-san and Mubai laughter. If you're an idiot, then you're an idiot. So what if he awakened the fire element? He would never become a mage in his entire lifetime. Your talent in the fire element is very good, so how come your cultivation is so low? Mo Fan, there are numerous people who wish to become a fire magician, and you already have an advantage which many people don't. You must put in the effort. Mrs. Tangyu looked at Mo Fan as she said in pity. I understand, Mrs. Tangyu. Mo Fan nodded. After going through meditation, a magician's spiritual force would become powerful. Its power would reach the point where they were able to perceive details which normal people couldn't. They would also be able to perceive the aura of another mage. Through the aura's intensity, one could roughly determine a magician's cultivation level. Mo Fan knew from the start it wasn't possible to hide his cultivation. However, there was this one thing. If Mo Fan were to conceal the power of the lightning element and only reveal the aura of the fire element, then others would only be able to sense the fire element's aura. Thus, they were only able to determine the fire element's cultivation level while being unable to sense the other element. That was why Mo Fan could normally just use the fire element to fool other people. The second I wanted to focus on the fire element, an amazing fire element teacher suddenly appeared at my door. It seems like there's hope for me to complete the activation of the primary skill, Fire Burst, before the big examination. Mo Fan's confidence immediately increased. Eh? Why is this woman looking at me with an odd expression? It seems like she's called Jomin, the top student in the class, and also a fire element user. Mo Fan was puzzled. I don't think I've ever offended this girl Jomin, so why is she looking at me with such a hostile gaze? On the other side, Jomin's brows creased. Seeing the study rec called Mo Fan looking at her, she immediately and ferociously glared at him. Jomin was unhappy, extremely unhappy. What qualifications does Mo Fan have to possess a better talent in fire element than me? The homeroom teacher, Shui Musheng, once said Mo Fan's talent in fire element was the best in the entire class. During the awakening, the flames were very clear, and now this extremely amazing Mrs. Tangyu also commented on how his talent was good. Forget it, there's no need to get angry over this kind of study rec. Either way, when the annual examination comes and he doesn't meet the qualifications, he'll be asked to leave school. This guy will have one last half year of leisure. I just really don't understand. It's obvious that his family situation isn't good. They sacrificed everything just so he could enter the Tianlan Magic High. Yet, after awakening the fire element, he's decadent and lazy. How is he able to face his family? Did a dog eat his consciousness? Thanks to Zhao Kun-san and Mubai, the entire class basically knew that Mo Fan was squeezed into the class. Your homeroom teacher has already spoken to me about the importance of the annual examination. First, if you don't meet the requirements, then you'll be asked to leave the school. Second, they'll divide you into different classes based on your grades. If you're placed in the elite class, then you'll obtain certain benefits that will give you an advantage on the Magic University's exams. Thus, this school semester, everyone should have no reason to not put in their utmost effort, Mrs. Tangyu said to everyone. Mrs. Tangyu, will you be teaching the elite class? A male student asked. Yeah, if everything goes according to the plans, I will be assigned to be the practical magic teacher for the elite class after I finish teaching you. Tangyu slightly nodded her head. Teacher, Yang Guo. Oh, Huang Faifeng will definitely do my best. Mrs. Tangyu, I want to follow you in the future as WL. Tangyu maintained a gentle smile as she could tell that her first class today was pretty successful. The student's passion for studying has been lifted. Oh, right. When any of you are able to control 7 stars, then you can come and find me in private. I will take some time off of my schedule to teach you some more, Tangyu continued. Clamor! A wolf howl suddenly resounded from the class. 7 stars, it suddenly became the striving objective for everyone. I'm not too far from 7 stars, Mrs. Tang Yu. Wait for me. Are you for real? How many can you control? 2. Get lost. I can do 3 that's better than you, dregs, Huang Faifeng said with his face filled with pride. 3 stars and you still have the face to stand here and act arrogant. I'm almost at 4. Don't you know that it gets harder as you progress? Shu Qinglin asked in disdain. That's funny. Real funny. You groups of wastes, Mubai is already in control of 5 stars. In the next semester, he could spend 3 days fishing and 2 days browsing the internet, and he's still able to reach 7 stars. The first one to work with Mrs. Tang Yu will definitely be Mubai, Zhao Kun-san immediately said in ridicule. Sheet, Mubai, is that amazing? 5 stars, how did he cultivate like that? That's too amazing. I heard that the most amazing student in the school, the 7th class's lightning student, has only been able to control 5 as well. Feeling the discussion surrounding him, Mubai felt his entire being beginning to float. However, in order to show his mature and collected temperament, Mubai wouldn't expose his approval for the compliments towards him. That would just make him look like a complete douche. This guy, Zhao Kun-san, he was a little stupid, and he was not reliable when it came to doing things. However, there was one thing that was very good about him. When the master wants attention yet can't display it, Zhao Kun-san would jump in with the right timing. It's not like I can personally jump out and say this daddy can already control 5 every time someone is discussing 3 or 2 stars and then get shocked by 4 stars. That'd be cheap, too cheap. It doesn't conform with the temperament of being the young master of my family. If we put it in Zhao Kun-san's words, it fits perfectly well. This way he could show everyone he was amazing and not diminish his manners. Life is like playing League of Legends. Not only do you have to be good at it, it is also very important for teammates to know how to conform to you. Hot air flowed over the mountains, engulfing the south and exchanging the embrace of spring for the humidity of summer. Following this came heavy rain, a good omen, destroying the leaves and leaving the flowers to wither. Bo City was regarded as a city with many seasons, however. Sometimes it could get exceedingly unruly. Just this morning, the sun was fierce and illuminating. There was not a single cloud that could be seen for thousands of miles. The nap he took felt the same as the one with which he crossed worlds, a strange gust with the black clouds covering the entire sky. As it became evening, the torrential rain and wind became ice cold. Is there a storm coming? This crap weather, it is randomly happening all year round. It becomes whatever season it wants without skipping a beat, Zhang Xiaohu complained from within the dorms. Zhang Xiaohu, aren't you a wind element user? Come, you should go out into the storm and see if you can activate the primary skill of wind element, Wind Trail. Lu Xiaobing from the same dorm said. Don't you freaking have the water element? Why aren't you going out and showing the water barrier? Oh, magnificent water magician. You're still using an umbrella when you go out. Aren't you ashamed when you go out? Lu Xiaobing's face turned pale. Truly, a water element magician should technically have a wind jacket in the rain. The problem is, it's almost time for the annual examination. Lu Xiaobing could only control 4 stars, thus there was still quite a distance from him being able to activate the water element skill, water barrier. Zhang Xiaohu, can you really use Wind Trail? Why don't you show us? The truth is, other than seeing that violent girl Zhoumin using Fire Burst, we haven't seen anyone else in class use proper magic. The dorm head, who talked about his lewd thoughts about Mrs. Tang Yu every day, said, it's not going so well, I can't guarantee the 100% succession, Zhang Xiaohu said with a slight shyness. Monkey, show it to us. I also want to see what the wind element skill looks like. Mo Fan eyes beamed as he put down the theory book in his hands. The place is too small. Use the hallway. The hallway is long enough. Okay, let me try. But I'm really not proficient at it. Zhang Xiaohu nodded his head. It's already the end of the term, and Zhang Xiaohu had quite the talent. He was one of the very small number of people in the class that could control 7 stars. Everyone was curious about the skills of every element. Naturally, they also wanted to see Zhang Xiaohu used his. Zhang Xiaohu closed his eyes and began to enter the activation state. He was really slow. It was clear that he wasn't very good at controlling the stars. He maintained the rhythm of his breathing, and the breathing was audible. Whoosh! Suddenly, the books on the table began to move. The dormitory's old doors began to creak. The dust on the floor began to rise and swirled the dirty underwear beneath the bed. As the boss of the dormitory was about to grab it, the underwear elegantly avoided his hands and floated unrestricted in the wind. Wind trail, fast stride. Zhang Xiaohu's entire temperament changed. An azure color emerged within his eyes as his lapel began to brandish. Along with his incantations, the toothbrush, cups, and clothing racks clattering about. They were all moving according to the trail. Mo Fan quickly composed himself to watch this scene. From these pieces of junk and the swirling dusts, he surprisingly discovered an unusual airstream in the dormitory. This stream of air originated from Zhang Xiaohu's location. It spread all the way from the hall to the other side of the hallway's public toilet. Swoosh! Suddenly, Zhang Xiaohu's figure disappeared. The former unmoving Zhang Xiaohu standing in the center of the dormitory became as though he used the ripple tiny steps. The speed was as fast as a whirlwind as he frantically charged out of his dorm and followed the indiscernible wind track in the air that went toward the toilet at the end of the hallway. "That's awesome!" Lu Xiaobing yelled out. The group of people in the dormitory immediately squeezed themselves out the door and chased after Zhang Xiaohu. However, as everyone exited their dorms, Zhang Xiaohu had already quickly shifted from the left side of the hallway to the very end of the hall. Too fast. Any 100-meter sprinter speed would be pathetic compared to this movement. Mo Fan felt a ripple in his heart. The wind element's primary skill was also really cool. The feeling of stepping onto the wind track must be amazing. "Help, help!" Zhang Xiaohu called out. "Peng!" The hallway suddenly trembled. As Mo Fan just finished his envying sigh, the Zhang Xiaohu in the distance hit the door of the public toilet. People began to laugh at him. The crooked faucet began to spray wildly, and a part of the toilet door was broken. A strong and fishy stink quickly spread out throughout the entire floor, as there now was no door to prevent the smell. In a split second, cursing voices were heard. The wind track finally dissipated. Zhang Xiaohu was laying on the ground with his nose bleeding. This appearance was already pretty miserable. Unfortunately, the underwear that followed the flow of the wind lost the wind force and finally landed the poor guy's face. Lu Xiaobing and the dorm head hastily dragged Zhang Xiaohu back to his dorm. The dorm head took back his underwear and opened it to find a bloodstain. "Dorm head, I didn't know you also had menstruation periods," Lu Xiaobing cracked up. "Get out of here." The dorm head reluctantly threw his beloved underwear into the bin. Mo Fan silently retracted his head and returned to his bed before the residence manager charged over in a fury. He acted as though nothing had ever happened. "The wind element skill seems good. This movement speed was not any slower than that of a car. It's just Zhang Xiaohu hasn't met the standards. Thus, he didn't know how to pull over and stop. You group of brats. The annual examination is near, and you still aren't properly meditating. Instead, you're here doing these things. If I see this happening again, I'll skin you alive." The residence manager's roar spread across the entire hallway in this wind and rain. The annual examination had finally arrived, and for a lot of people, today was a nightmare. This was because there was a chance that they would be expelled from the school. And these people counted as the most tragic and most shameless, who had to go back and meet their parents. However, studying magic was not a child's game. Every magic highs system worked like this. If you were not suited to study magic, then you would be expelled early, giving them another way so they wouldn't continue to waste their time in the borderless magic sea. To those students who had been doing their best in cultivating, today was the day they could show their results. Particularly for those students who could already use their skills. The stormy days had already passed. The morning's weather was sunny, and the summer air was clear. Within the Mu Manor, Mubai specifically wore a white t-shirt with plum embroidery and iron trousers. His entire being gave off a low-profile feeling, not wanting to show off his family background. With his handsome exterior and his low-profiled outfit that didn't fail to show his elegance, he had already captured the affection of many girls. However, with him being a legitimate member of the Mu family, how could he fancy any of these common and vulgar women? His objective was a proud girl like Mu Ningshu. Of course, if Mrs. Tang Yu were willing to give in, he would be willing as well. "Mubai, you have to show off today. You have to know that our Mu family will distribute a few cultivation resources to some of the young disciples." The distribution is based on the contribution of their family and the cultivation grades of the young disciples. You have to work hard for this branch family of yours that has almost been forgotten by the Mu family. Mu personally sent Mubai to school in his black limousine this morning. He was the supervisor of Tianlan Magic High. He personally arranged the annual examination today. No matter what, Mubai was still his nephew. He hoped for Mubai to give him some face in front of the other supervisors. "Uncle, please don't worry," Mubai said with the utmost confidence. As he finished speaking, Mubai suddenly thought of something. He turned over and whispered, "Uncle, I heard that Mu Ningshu is also coming to Tianlan Magic High today?" Yeah, today is a very important day for Tianlan Magic High. It just happens that Mu Ningshui started her summer break early from the Empire Institution. I discussed with the family head and had her, the flag of Bo City, come to Tianlan Magic High to give you guys a lecture, take a look at the annual examinations this year, and have her evaluate the quality of the students. "Mu," he said. Seeing Mubai bursting with life, he naturally knew what kind of ideas he had. He chuckled as he patted Mubai's shoulders. "Don't worry, when it's your turn, I will have her watch with the family head." When the family head sees you working so hard, he might even distribute more cultivation resources to your family. You know how few disciples we have in our family, and the outstanding ones are rarer. If the family head notices you and you are given a Stardust magic tool for 2 or 3 months, you'll reap many benefits. Stardust magic tool? Really? I have a chance to use a Stardust magic tool? Mubai's eyes radiated. Of course, do you know why we are different from common magicians? Superior genes? Family influence? No matter how good these are, they aren't better than a Stardust magic tool. If you can become a core disciple within the family, you have a chance to receive a Stardust magic tool. Your cultivation will definitely be far higher than your peers in school, Muhi said. Uncle, I will definitely do my best to show cultivation being far higher than the peers in school. Mubai began to boil up. No wonder why these disciples of the family were frantically cultivating. It turns out it was for the Stardust magic tools. Every magician has a limited amount of time to cultivate. For students like these, 5 hours of meditation was their limit, and the remaining time was for studying theory and knowledge. The Stardust magic tool was an item which every magic cultivator yearns for the most. Mubai didn't know the principle behind the Stardust magic tool. However, he did know the Stardust magic tool could help cultivators to recover their energy more quickly and cut down the amount of fatigue. Normally, after spending 5 hours of meditation, they could only do other things in the remaining 19 hours. They were weary from meditating during the 19 hours. They could only pass this time through doing other things or sleeping. For a lot of students who wanted to advance, 19 hours of fatigue was too long, while at the same time, they couldn't do anything about it. When a person is putting their mind on a constant focus, they need to have an even longer period of relaxation. Otherwise, their mind would collapse. Whereas the Stardust magic tool was a divine cultivation tool that was capable of cutting that fatigue time down. With the meditation fatigue period cut down, that would mean the increase of the daily meditation time. There may not be much of an effect with just a day or two. However, a month or two would make a small difference when it was compared to cultivators without a Stardust magic tool. If they were to practice with it for 2 or 3 months, then they would be in a completely different league compared to their peers. The efficiency of meditation varies from people to people. There are fast and slow ones, so let's not think about that for now. However, even if the efficiency was exceedingly slow, one could still be in the lead with the help of the Stardust magic tool. People who did their best and had talent would only do half the work for twice the effect. Uncle, you mentioned the elite class students would have the opportunity to use the Stardust magic tool. Is this true? Mubai asked with a slight excitement. That's right. Since this is a magic school, naturally, there are also some few cultivation resources. However, the resources are very limited. There are so many students, thus giving each student the chance to use it is not possible. Therefore, it's necessary to have the annual examination and the elite class. This way, the students of the elite class will have an opportunity to use the Stardust magic tool for a period. It won't be a problem for you to enter the elite class with your grades. When the time comes, I'll pull some strings from behind the scenes and let you use the school's Stardust magic tool for a little bit longer. For you, this is quite beneficial. The school is an equal place after all. It's not possible for me to do too much. What would truly allow you to soar to the sky is to use the Stardust magic tool from our MU family. That is something a common magician will never be able to obtain in their lifetime. That's why you must treasure it. He sincerely said to Mubai. Don't worry, uncle, I won't disappoint you. Saying that to me is useless. You need to prove yourself in front of Mu Ning-shu and the family head. He patted Mubai's shoulders as he said this. Mubai nodded seriously. His heart couldn't help but to give a cold laugh. Shu Zhaoting, so what if your cultivation is on par with mine? So what if you have the lightning element? Behind me is the enormous Mu family. You will never be able to contend against me. All right, how's the situation with that kid called Mofan? He inadvertently thought of this as if he thought of a beggar he didn't want to give money to. He asked without thinking, as though he had nothing to do. He's trash. He will definitely be expelled from the school. Mubai didn't need to cover up his despise for Mofan. Mubai really loathed Mofan. When everyone was young, they actually grew up in this area together. However, Mofan would always have a group of people following him. He was like the Monkey King. However, what Mubai didn't understand was the fact that the revered and matchless Mu Ning-shu was actually blindly mixing with them, and their relations were very intimate. What did he count for? He was like a wild monkey, running around the block and mountain areas every day with a whiff of attitude, yet his poverty was fully revealed. Did he know what true power was? Family status? Did he know what it was to be called laughably poor to the point where people would always look down on him? The son of a servant is just low. Without seeing it, he just didn't know what vision was, what is called ambition. He just lived in his slum house in that mud-reeking street and took pleasure in working hard. HMPF. I'll sign him off. I'll have an explanation for Mo Jiaxing as well. It's not that I didn't help. It's just his idiot a son wasn't able to become a mage, even when we gave him a chance to awaken. Sigh. People just aren't tactful. They just have to spend massive amounts of money to give it a try. The thing is, you are a loser. How can you hope for your son to be an Allosaurus? Being poor and useless is something that gets passed down through generations, Muhi slowly said as he took a drag off his cigarette. At this moment, Muhi's eyes were half closed. He looked like a grand and graceful old fox. He even revealed his disdain and ridicule for poor people.